Welcome to this week's episode of Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters, the podcast where we chart the cinematic legacy of the classic monsters. I'm John Campbell. With me, as always, Brendan Jones.
John Campbell, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Is it better or worse? Okay, when a movie is a misfire,
Yes.
is it better or worse if it's a misfire by a director we know is incredibly talented and has done wonderful things, or if it's just a nobody? And I think I already know the answer.
I think it's better for the misfire by the auteur, right? Like,
Oh no!
Ooh,
I mean, I'm
interesting.
not talking about the worth of the movie. I'm saying, does it hurt more? I guess that's what I was getting at.
Yes, because now you're talking
Because
about,
you have expectations.
You're talking about disappointment as opposed to just, let's say over on my other podcast, The Action Shelf, I hardly ever know those directors, and so I have nothing coming in. And if anything, at a certain point, those guys, you start to see the same names and go, oh, it's always shit.
Right.
So
and every now and then you'll get a pleasant surprise where you're like going, normally this guy is shit,
Yes.
and that one little sequence was really well
that's
done.
where the expectations can work in that person's favor. Yes, I agree the disappointment is larger, but I am more fascinated by the failures of the great filmmakers. That's kind of where I come in with that. But I do agree.
It does hurt with today's film simply because this guy did one of our favorites of all time.
He on this podcast, he did one of our favorites of all time, and just in his career, did several of my favorites of all time.
Oh, yeah. No, I was speaking specifically for this podcast.
About
An American Werewolf in London is an undeniable classic.
And
one of the best werewolf films of all time.
And might actually is maybe my favorite movie of his. I don't know. That's a tough one. He's done
it is tough because he's wide ranging and has done a lot.
Yeah, because I am going like, Blues Brothers is pretty high up.
Oh
on my
my God,
list of
Blues
favorites of all
Brothers.
time.
There's not a frame of that movie I would ever change.
Trading Places is hilarious. Three Amigos is great. Coming to America.
Coming to America is a
I think
fucking
that might
classic.
be my favorite.
Sorry for the language.
I just adore Coming to America. I just love that movie.
Agreed.
That's
just like with Blues Brothers, it hits.
Blues Brothers and Coming to America are two that I constantly revisit and enjoy.
Yeah.
So,
and still laugh at a million years later.
And now let me ask you. I watched this, but then I watched this last night. But the night before, I watched a different John Landis movie that I did not pick up the Shout Factory Collector's Edition of this because it doesn't exist. But I did pick up the Shout Factory Collectors of what I think is kind of a hidden gem in his resume, and that is Into the Night.
Oh, are you kidding me? Into the Night. I can't believe that movie's been forgotten.
I completely agree. I remembered liking it. I got the Shout Factory had a big sale, and I got the collector's edition of it. Going like, I remember liking this movie. I watched it the other night, and I really love that movie. Why is that not better? And there's a new interview with Landis where he talked about like, it's because the studio didn't know how to market it, and nobody knew what to make of the tone of it. And I think that's key to the success and failures of John Landis. Is the guy's whole appeal is that he can walk this line of tone. And I think
normally can. Then we get to this movie
because what I'm saying is it's a tightrope, and most of his career he's able to walk that tightrope. This is an example of, and I think the '90s in general start to become examples of. Because he had just done Oscar before this, another movie that doesn't know what it's doing exactly.
Right.
But Into the Night, oh my God, if you haven't seen Into the Night, that movie is so... And also, the B.B. King theme to Into the Night slaps like nobody's business.
Dude, I saw Into the Night in the theaters. And immediately, and I was already a fan of Goldblum because, I mean, he'd established himself.
Well, let's talk. Just right off the bat, two of the most attractive and charming actors in the history of film.
And Michelle Pfeiffer, this was still early.
Early, yeah.
Like, this is like post Grease 2.
It's 85, so it's still, I think she's done Scarface at this point.
Okay,
That was kind of the big one. But, oh my God, you watched that movie.
That movie is example of, he leans into things that are John Landis things that when they work, as in his endless cameos of either directors or cult actors, or in the case of Into the Night, a lot of musicians.
Yeah.
Same with Blues Brothers, but on purpose, they had all the great blues musicians and soul singers and so forth. But in that, fucking David Bowie and Into the Night, where he's like going, You're very good.
I
Yeah, you're
love
very
David
good.
Bowie in that. So he puts a
It's so
gun in
good.
Jeff Goldblum's mouth.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
and you get like a good Dan Aykroyd cameo. You get a good
Yep.
Cronenberg cameo. You get the
Yep.
very rare Lawrence Kasdan cameo.
Yep.
And I'm sitting,
And agreed, that theme song at the end, I can
oh,
still sing it. To
into the
I
night.
go out of my mind or into the night. It's
Yeah.
great.
It's
Oh,
so
it's
good,
great.
and the way it weaves through the whole score of the movie, which is so 80s, but it's this weird
It
mix of
does
blues
have
and
an odd tone, and
But
I
it's-
can see, and
but
it is
as a
it's
film
not
goer,
a black comedy. It's just a really kind of dour and lethargic on purpose, because it is about a guy with chronic insomnia getting caught up in one crazy night of stuff.
It's such a great use of Goldblum though, because he's the perfect guy to go. I don't know what's going on here. I'm so confused. And I was thinking about just how much it shows you what a movie star Goldblum is, because he can do so much by just kind of cocking an eyebrow and looking around like, this is crazy.
Yep.
This is
Yep.
crazy.
Yep.
It's great, and it's super bloody, which I think threw people, because they go like, oh, it's like because it kind of could be like a romance, but then it's way more violent than the people looking for romances.
It actually feels very pulpy. It feels like if you took a pulp, like an Elmore Leonard novel or something, and then you put this weird sort of 80s comedy gloss on it, and you're like, wow,
I think Elmore Leonard is a great thing though, because his books are very funny. It's not the first thing
it's a
anybody
lot
says
of
about
character
them.
stuff, while the violence is real and people are really dying. Again, the movie we're going to talk about today,
I just want to start with that, because that was I did these back to back kind of, and it just shows you the kind of highs and lows of this guy's career, because I really would prop up Into the Night as in the top tier of Landis stuff. I love it.
It's so great. I'm glad that you're a fan of that too. I didn't
also,
even know there was a cleaned up nice new version.
Yeah, not only is it beautifully restored, but it has brand new interviews with Landis and Goldblum that are worth checking out. And it is Landis going, I love that movie, but let me tell you why people didn't go. But he goes, but in France, it was fucking huge. He goes, you go there. He goes, I go there. They love that movie.
Weird.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's probably because it has an Elvis impersonator in it.
Played by the great Bruce McGill.
Yep, I know.
Reteaming with Landis from Animal House. So it's just, and actually, I will say, one thing this movie has in its favor, great cast. Great cast. If you're looking for a vampire movie,
are you looking for The Sopranos before The Sopranos? This is it.
That's what I was going to say. If you've been waiting for the vampire movie starring the cast of The Sopranos, oh my God. It's one of those things where, being a fan of gangster movies, I did know every one of those Sopranos actors as a gangster character actor forever.
Yeah, and then also presciently, because this is pre-Casino, Don Rickles in a line that walks. It's
you talk about
real.
One of the things I like in this movie. Rickles
is Don Rickles is great.
Rickles and Loggia are my MVPs in this thing.
Loggia until the comedy kicks in. I'm agreeing with you until the comedy kicks in, or tries.
It's hard for me to be too mad at a movie that gives me vampire Robert Loggia. That's all I'm saying. It's hard for me to be too upset about seeing Robert Loggia as a vampire.
Understood. We should probably tell people what we're talking about today.
Innocent Blood from 92?
92.
Yeah, 92. Now, I think this is also interesting that this is back to back with Memoirs of an Invisible Man, because yet again, a failure made by one of our heroes.
Right.
But I think radically different circumstances. Because Landis is very open about, they gave him a lot of leeway on this movie. This is not like a ton of studio interference came into this thing.
Yeah, but according to him, he said, he had crazy leeway but no budget.
And and that
so
definitely
they said,
shows in
you
places.
can do something cheap,
yeah,
but we won't.
I got to talk about.
shoulder.
I was reading the Wikipedia for this.
Yeah,
and
Same thing.
Did you see the thing about the movie they pitched initially? Because
Yeah.
I am now obsessed with this idea for a movie.
What, is it called Red Nights or Red Sleep or something?
Red Sleep, a screenplay that he and Harry Shearer wrote.
I know.
Which
that's
I'm like,
about vampires in Vegas.
Yeah, the premise was basically that Las Vegas is a city that's run by vampires. And Landis himself says it was, quote, pretty wild.
Yeah.
I immediately Googled and tried to find the script. It's not out there anywhere. I really want to read this. Although I kind of just want to take that idea and run with it. And so when my Las Vegas vampire comic book comes out, you'll know where it came from.
It came from Jeff Rice and the Kolchak papers.
I mean, a little bit, but
except for that's not a vampire running
no,
Vegas.
But,
I know.
But I love that idea of I don't know anything beyond that idea, but like, what if Vegas was built by vampires? It's a city of night. It's something actually that we'll get to next season. It's one of the things I really like in the Fright Night remake is they set it in Vegas because Vegas is a hub for vampires because it's up all night. Like, it's just a place vampires are drawn to. I thought that was a very clever thing in that movie. So I love that idea. I love that Warner Brothers was like, no, we don't want this, but you can direct this other vampire script we have lying around.
I would be curious. I mean, I don't want to spend the time or breath, but I would be curious to read the original script of this.
Yeah.
Because I have a feeling that the misfire comedy, and I'm all for, like we've already said, I'm all for a Landis dark comedy. American Werewolf in London is the perfect walking of that line.
I'm sure Warner Brothers was going, oh, he can do that with vampires.
Right, exactly. But I have a feeling that the comedy probably came from Landis, and I actually think that the original script was probably what I want out of this kind of story. And weirdly, watching this movie, I thought, well, at least for a while, like the first 20 or 30 minutes, I was like going, Landis was the wrong guy for this, which is weird because I love Landis, but I was like going, the things that make Landis are actually hurting what is a pretty good concept.
Can I pitch you an idea?
Okay.
Take Memoirs of the Invisible Man, swap the directors.
Yes!
I think that could work. I don't know that Carpenter is like 100% fit, but he at least would have leaned into the darkness of the tone of this.
Because the tone Landis
would have both accentuated the sci-fi and the lightheartedness of Memoirs of Invisible Man, and I think made something with a more cohesive tone. And I think Carpenter would have made a more stylized, legitimate horror movie out of this.
Yes. Yeah. And you know, Carpenter, I think there's a gloss, even with a low budget Landis, there's a gloss to his world that doing something really kind of grounded doesn't work.
Right.
Like, for instance, all the early stuff with the gangsters in this film is well written Sopranos kind of stuff.
It is.
Acted great by a really good cast.
Many of them in the Sopranos.
But just the fact that they are in like very sleek 80s style, like flashy clothes instead of what you would think that, thanks to, of course, the Sopranos, you're expecting a real world Sopranos. They wear tacky suits. They don't look like 1980s music video guys.
Yeah.
And there's a polish to this that actually hampers it, I think.
It's a handsome looking film, but yes, maybe not in the right way. Because Landis, I mean, one thing is, I think the budget was certainly low here, as Landis said, but Landis does shoot the movie very nicely, but maybe, as we're saying, a little too glossy.
And the budget is very apparent, even though they save money by shooting in it's Pittsburgh, right?
And actually, one of the things I like is that they said the initial plan was to shoot Pittsburgh for New York.
And then they're like, no, let's just make it Pittsburgh.
And I like that, actually, just because I like seeing a mob story set in a place that isn't a traditional. Well, sure. What's the organized crime of Pittsburgh? That kind of is interesting.
Yeah, no, I did like that, and except for the budget shows when you can see that he only got street clearance for this street or that street.
Yes,
because it's definitely not a set. But at the same time, you're going, it's that same corner. We keep seeing the same corner. And yeah, I know it's outside of the restaurant where the gangsters hang out, but it's like, John, did you do all this in one night? Like just all the scenes outside the Oyster House or whatever the place was called? I was like, this looks like you're shooting on a set, even though it's clearly not. But now here's my question while we're talking remake before we've even gotten into the movie.
Yeah.
Would you keep Anne Perriod, or how you pronounce her last name?
No, I probably wouldn't, and I like her. It's not her.
I like her too, and undeniably at this point, she is at the height of her loveliness.
She's coming off of the big
Femme Nikita,
which is a great movie, and she's great.
It really is, and she's used well in it.
I understand why on paper she seems like the perfect fit for this, but I think some of it is tone once again too. I'll tell you, I think the biggest problem here, and some of this is script, is the two leads are the worst developed characters in the movie.
Pretty much.
I
One
don't
of the
know,
reasons American Werewolf in London.
Their romance doesn't work. Their motivations are unclear. I don't get their whole deal.
Also, pacing in this is awful. And when you're looking at story structure, this thing takes place over maybe 4 days.
Yeah.
And you're going, and we spend long times, like, I was sitting there going, holy shit, the last 20 minutes of this movie have all taken place in the same night. Yeah. So how much can people actually develop, or how can we get to know them over the course of it's one long night, unless you're doing Into the Night. Thank you.
Into the Night, which is designed specifically to do that. But by the end of this, I did watch them back to back. But part of it is I really buy the romance between Goldblum and Pfeiffer and Into the Night.
Yeah.
Here, when LaPaglia says, "I love you" at the end of this movie, I go, "Why?" I mean, other than she's gorgeous, of course, but you love her. Why?
Yeah, no, there's no organic evolution of them getting to know each other.
I mean, they are both so hot in this movie. There's no question about that. But neither one, I don't know why she loves him either. I mean, and I said this last week, and I say it again here. I'm a big LaPaglia fan. I think he's a great actor. I think this is I don't think you talk about would I keep him. I would just rewrite this part because I don't think anybody would have been good in this.
He looks lost here, but I think that also has to do with the fact that he doesn't know what the tone's supposed to be.
I don't know what the tone is. I don't know what this character's deal is exactly. He's just sort of, I'm a cop trying to take down a mobster. And then
there's weird stuff where you're going, okay, this is probably intrinsic in the original script, but you're sitting there going, all right, so he has been undercover for a long time. He's basically Donnie Brasco. Well, then, if you're Angela Bassett, his
Jesus Christ, what a great
supervisor,
actress.
Would you turn him around and have the press take pictures of him so now he's outed as a undercover agent? What the fuck was that about?
Also, what the fuck is not using Angela Bassett more? Because Angela Bassett is amazing.
Well, no, here's the thing. I'm glad they didn't, because even though I love Angela Bassett, this character is and she's going for a different movie altogether in her scenes.
That's kind of when you talk about
she's doing
problems.
A comedy. She is doing like that. I'm gonna be big, and I'm doing all. I'm like, whoa. No one's on the same page.
By the way,
with you,
let me pitch you Angela Bassett as sexy, badass vampire woman killing mobsters. I would go with you 100% on that. Oh my god, I love Angela Bassett.
Especially, she's still.
Oh my god.
I'm saying at that time and place.
Yep.
Fuck yes.
Yep.
If you get her in the shape she got in to play Tina Turner,
I just want to see where that's got to be pretty close to this, right?
What's Love Got to Do with it is probably 93, 4.
93. So it's the next year. And also, I want to point out the same year she's also in Malcolm X. So I think she's doing okay.
No, again, this cast is great. But
we will be talking about her in the female lead of a horror movie in just a couple weeks when we talk about Vampire in Brooklyn.
Yeah, talk about another one that you're like, oh.
That one I have more affection for than this movie, though.
Well, it's been a long time since I've seen it, but
and that was one where they got a real deal horror director.
Let's try to reset, and we do this all the time, and I understand we just jump in, but let's
talk about this poster.
Let's talk about the poster and
which is it's not a bad poster, but once again, what am I looking at here for a movie?
Well, you're looking at what they think you're going to what you think you're getting, which is a vampire movie, but then you have that weird. It is a weird poster. So basically,
and further adds to tonal confusion.
Yes, you get the big vampire face, and boy, the contacts must have been brand new. This must have been a new effect because they love these contacts in this movie.
Jesus Christ, it never ends. It never
ends.
But
it's Anne Perriod's lovely face, very pale, red lips, and her eyes are blood red with the weird.
She's looking more vampire-ish here than in the film, actually.
Well, except for in a few moments where she does the contact scenes when she's feeding.
I'm not talking about the contacts. I'm talking about the pallor of the skin. It's so translucent.
Well, you know what's really weird, and it's because I think the version that you can get now is a cleaned up version.
Yeah.
So I was watching it. I had to rent it from Amazon. It's another $3 you owe me, John.
Same.
But
well, I guess I don't know if that cancels out or something like that, because I also paid $3 for it. So,
okay. But the scene where she is macking on, literally, macking on the first victim
Chaz
guy.
Palminteri.
Yeah, Chaz Palminteri.
Another great. Boy, he just kind of tiptoes in and out of this movie, doesn't he?
Yeah,
it's sort of like it's a gangster movie. I'm obligated to be here. Bye.
Pretty much all of them were like, oh, right. Oh, I know exactly what we're doing.
And I love Chaz Palminteri.
Sure,
but he could do this in his sleep.
You can tell that they painted her face to be pale and pallor. The only problem is you can see her neck and shoulder region where they didn't, and it's really weird because she has this ghostly white face with the red eye contacts, but the rest of her body looks just the way it normally does.
She's a fairly fair-skinned woman. It's not like they had to go, but yet it is striking when you I'm looking her up because I don't know that I've seen her in much other than this and La Femme Nikita.
This was kind of her her time, because La Femme Nikita was such a hit. And then she did this, which was she just kind of
she did that. This was directly after La Femme Nikita. She does Map of the Human Heart, which I'm aware of, but is not something I would watch. And then I guess the only other thing I've seen her in is Man in the Iron Mask, where she plays the Queen.
I saw Frankie Starlight.
Another one I'm aware of, but have not seen.
Wow, but looking at these, I'm like, no.
And then back to France for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Now, this is something I will say. I agree with the choice.
Like
because
I said, on paper,
Landis passed her, and he said, no, I'm not going to overdub her. We're going to keep her accent. And
I agree with that.
That's what you should do.
That would have been worse if they had dubbed her.
Right, but I gotta say it is a little awkward, and I don't think that as charming as she is, I don't think she's a good fit for this, other than visually.
Yeah.
And I think weirdly, she was cast in this because you can tell that Landis was going, we're gonna go full violent. We're gonna have like when it gets bloody, it's gonna be bloody. It's gonna be animalistic, and this is literally casting another Nastasia Kinski, like Catwoman, cat people, because you have the short-haired brunette who makes panther noises and bites the necks out of people.
I never thought about that.
And I was like going, oh my God.
True.
It's the exact same thing. But anyway, to finish with the poster, that is all what you're expecting. Vampire face, red eyes.
But it looks like it's going to be scary or sad or dark. It looks like The Hunger or something like that.
But then on the left-hand side, not even in the same tone
just kind of sneaks into the poster.
A picture of a gangster sitting at a table with a cheesy Italian restaurant tablecloth and his head down in a plate of spaghetti. That's subtle.
I actually like this tagline, though. For generations, the mafia preyed on the innocent. Tonight, someone's feasting on them. Which sells what I like about this movie, or what I want to like about this movie and the premise of it, which is a vampire feasting on gangsters. Take my money. Great idea.
And then someone saying, do you want it to be trying to be funny? And I would have said, no, please.
That would not be. It would. I would definitely be taken aback by that. I'm like, funny, you say. Interesting.
And I'll say this. The first half hour of this movie, or maybe 40 minutes, when we get up to Loja getting bitten.
Yeah.
If you do the exact same film, the exact same footage we have.
Yeah.
And you take out her narration. Which adds nothing.
Which is terrible, yeah. In fact, I rolled my eyes when she started narrating, because I'm like, well, there's a studio note.
And it's not her fault.
No, it's just like, why the narration? Once again,
but if you let her be mysterious, and we don't get her inner monologue, you take that out, and you also take out the panther noises, which don't work for me at all.
No,
but you keep the violence, and you keep, because the first half hour is almost gritty. I mean, it almost works. and then it takes that comic turn,
and
you're like, oh God.
Did you
stop
see
it.
Landis describing the tone or the vibe of the movie? And I go like, I want to see this movie when he talks about it's a Hammer film if it was directed by Scorsese. I'm going, that sounds great.
Yeah.
That's not really what this movie. I understand why. I understand where he's getting the Hammer elements and the Scorsese elements, but that's not what this movie feels like. I wish.
What Landis is saying there is he's clearly, that is a statement of intent.
Yes.
That is not what we got,
No.
but it's a statement of what he was trying for.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know Anne Perriot was married to Jean-Michel Jarre.
I didn't know either.
Yeah, they were married from 2005 to 2010. Because
I told you I went to go see Jean-Michel Jarre's live Rendezvous Houston.
Yeah, I know.
concert.
I'm jealous of that because I'm a big fan of his stuff.
It was insane.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, that's awesome. She was also, of course, married to Luc Besson during the making of La Femme Nikita before he ran off with teenage Mila Jovovich.
Yeah, he's not problematic at all. But
oh yeah, actually, sorry, there was another like underage woman between her and Mila Jovovich.
Probably.
I mean, there were probably several, but there was another whole marriage.
No, I was talking about probably in one instance there probably was.
Yeah,
because the French, they just live for love. That's what they do.
I mean, the things that tell you everything. Look up the making of Leon the Professional, which is a movie I love. But hearing all the stuff he couldn't get through his head about why that script was problematic tells you a lot about Luc Besson. Where he's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
It is a romance. I don't understand the problem.
Problematic guy, very talented filmmaker, but yes, problematic guy. I enjoy many of his movies.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, The Fifth Element. Love that movie.
I like it till the end.
Okay, I do love the end too.
Don't you understand? The Fifth Element is love.
Yeah, I think that may
My
be
teardrop will start the magic engine.
That may be a generational thing too, where I was like 8 and saw that movie, and
I think visually that is a straight shot of Heavy Metal Magazine, right?
Unquestionably, and I love it.
Anyway,
and then I was excited for Valerian, and that disappointed me because
did it ever! I turned it off after 20 minutes, and I hardly ever do that.
I know. I wish I could. I had to sit in a theater to review.
Visually, it was great.
Yep.
But anyway, so this movie starts with a naked lady.
And why, sir?
Because the French, they are not like us.
No. Yeah, I understand. I'm not saying she had a problem doing it. I'm just watching this going like, why? Other than, I mean, like I said, I'm no prude when it comes to this stuff, but I think the nudity in this movie is a little overdone and unnecessary.
It's not if it is a different movie. In other words, if this is going for a gritty vibe, an urban vampire movie where she's taking on the mob, and she has a code that she lives by, so she only attacks evil. Again, conceptually, this is great. If it is going for sexy, why not have her naked? And then why not have a graphic love scene later? All of that I'm with if the movie is supporting it, and it's not.
You know who weirdly would have been good to this movie is Luc Besson, actually.
Luc Besson, or I was actually thinking commercial-minded David Lynch, because there are parts of this where if you had brought a Blue Velvet thing to this, awesome.
Or if you wanted a slicker, more like studio action movie, Tony Scott actually talking about the hunger.
Tony Scott, or
he could have delivered
Scorsese bending and doing horror, but mixing it in his comfort zone of mobsters.
Scorsese is a big Hammer guy. I've heard him talk about Hammer extensively and how much he
loves
loves
that's right, yeah.
So, and I love that was like Edgar Wright said when he met Scorsese, he's like, hey, I didn't talk to him about Goodfellas. I just talked to him about old Christopher Lee vampire movies, because that's
perfect.
And apparently that's what you want to do to light that guy's eyes up.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Yeah. You want to talk about horror Dracula? Sure.
My God, then we'd get along just fine.
Oh, I have no doubt I would get along with Scorsese, because I'm pretty sure you can mention any old movie and he'd be like, "Let me tell you everything about it." Same thing with like Tarantino. Both of those guys.
You said they're going, Marty, drop the whole Duel in the Sun thing. I watched your documentary. Okay, let's not keep going back to Duel in the Sun.
Yes. So you do start with that, but we also get like the whole framework of the movie of her being like, well, I don't like being a vampire, but since I have to drink, I drink bad people. And
And there's also the
that. By the
thing.
way, that'll be the. Well, I can't promise it'll be the end, but I'll try to hold back on doing the French accent.
Well, I don't see how you can, but
Well, because some of these line deliveries are damaged by. It's not even the accent; it is just the awkwardness of the English language to this woman. Clearly,
right, and also
because some of the lines she does just fine with, and it is a lot of the humorous stuff, of course, that is troublesome.
right. Except for when she does smile, when she plays at light, she's luminescent. Again, a very beautiful woman, and she's very charming. The problem is that's not a fit for this fucking story.
No.
Some of the line readings are hampered by the fact that, like, right off the bat, that first monologue, she's going, I'm hungry. Yeah. And I haven't eaten in a long time, and I also haven't had sex in a long time because the one that I cared for is gone. And so, in other words, we're already setting a somber tone. And she's going, I don't like what I am and how I have to eat. She goes, she then looks at a newspaper about mob slayings, and she's like, oh, that gives me an idea. And she goes, now I'm kind of hungry for Italian. And she looks at the camera, and that was the first for me. It was the first, like, no
Gulp.
Because she's like, oh, I'm going to attack mobsters now, and I'm hungry for some Italian. And I'm like, no.
Can I introduce?
Because they're trying. It's almost she's winking, like, I'm gonna eat some gangsters.
Let me once again turn to a segment that we come to more often than not on this show. And that is a segment I like to call Roger Ebert, Professional Perv.
Nice. This installment of Roger Ebert, Professional Perv, brought to you by Audible.
Yeah. So he did not like this movie, similar to Memoirs of an Invisible Man, but he once again, guess where he puts none of the blame?
On Anne Perriot.
Yeah. This is quoting Mr. Ebert's review. That leaves Anne Perriot's character looking as sexily consumptive as she did in La Femme Nikita, and narrating the film in a sad voice complaining of hunger and loneliness. Hers is an interesting character, and some of her scenes with LaPaglia have a certain poignance as a result. But she's real enough, dimensional enough to be more at home in one of Anne Rice's stories instead of this uneasy anthology of genres and styles. Now, I agree with parts of that, but he is really letting her off the hook.
Yeah, she could very easily play the sexy tortured vampire in a movie that I'm ready for.
Once again, take the dialogue.
And she could probably also play a delightful romantic comedy lead. Mm-hmm. It is this blend that she's on, and her voice is also very, and it's almost sweet. She's got the little girl voice and all of this.
There are moments in this where, I mean, she's meant to be sexy and powerful, but there are a lot of moments where she's cute. And that's not what you want here.
Well, I did like a thing that is never really addressed, that is either a character beat she came up with, or it's in the script, or Landis said do this, but it works occasionally. She, as a vampire, is disgusted by her own vampirism. So there are scenes in this where she sees her reflection with the blood all over her face, and she has to clean up. And she's like, and she breaks mirrors. Like, I don't want to see that I'm this thing. That's a great vampire take. That's very interesting. And she plays it well. Nothing is done with it. And we're expected to be laughing at comedic gangster vampires in about 10 minutes. I'm like, fuck off.
Well, once again, that's a different movie, because I don't mind the idea of vampire gangsters. That's an interesting movie into itself.
I love that. But I don't want funny.
No, because I actually, even once again, you talk about, I think the basic structure of the script is interesting, where she is killing these gangsters to feed, but one doesn't die, so he becomes a vampire, and then that becomes your movie's villain. Good. Mm-hmm. That's good writing. Like, that's good story. But yeah, it is a little goofy. And the times, once again, I love Robert Loggia in this movie when he is menacing, including in vampire form. And I'm on board for that.
Yeah.
Because Loggia's a good actor. Once again, everybody here is a good actor, actually.
Broad. No, everyone's a great actor.
Yeah.
adrift in a movie that is not serving anybody.
Because this is like this is the kind of movie I generally like, which is a parade of like, hey, that guy and this guy, and especially when you do these gangster. I mean, Kim Coates is in this, one of my favorite character actors.
I love Kim Coates too, and I always, every time I see young Kim Coates, like here, all I can think is that guy would have made an awesome Joker.
Yes, yes, agreed. I did get to meet Kim Coates at a comic convention once. Yes, he was super. I had a bag of comics, and he was like, he's the only celebrity I've ever met that he's like, we got in there. And he goes, let me see.
Oh, really?
What'd you get? And he's going through there, and he's going, oh, that's good stuff, man. That's good. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So
he's a nerd?
Yeah, and it was going, oh, yeah, you're into comics? Because, oh, I love all this shit, man. I love it.
Well, I mean, he's always been great. I'm glad that he's never been huge, but, Sons of Anarchy was great in.
He was my favorite on Sons of Anarchy. I thought he had one of the most interesting characters on there. But yes, a guy who, has never become a big star, but has just consistently done solid work for decades now.
Yeah.
So love the guy. By the way, he just was on Michael Rosenbaum's podcast, so I recommend people check out that interview, because I love that he gets a lot of the character actors on there to talk about that, because they have such interesting stories, often more than the leading people.
Yeah, because also there's not as much pressure on them to keep up, kind of.
And so it's like, let me tell you about the time I did a one-scene henchman role in The Last Boy Scout, and stuff like that, where you're like, oh, okay. Speaking of Tony Scott there. So we have her. Now we have this gangster meeting, which is in the basement of this diner, and we meet Anthony LaPaglia as Joe, who is undercover at this point.
But we don't know that. All we know is he is uncomfortable with the violence around him, and is basically like, I thought we were just doing a sit down with this guy. But of course, the panicked guy that's brought in is, of course, beaten and then essentially
with a toaster oven, by the way, which is not bad. Once again, this is serious, and then gunned down.
That's
by
what I'm
Robert
saying,
Loggia.
and I'm all for it, because it is written like a Sopranos episode, and I'm like, this is great. And Loggia, who's always good, Loggia here is, before the camp sets in, is chilling. He's great as a mob boss. And so basically, he takes it farther than just confronting this guy. He beats him with a toaster oven, and then basically tells Joe, who is LaPaglia's character, to off him. Go ahead and kill him. He's like, I can't do it.
I thought he was going to burn his hand in the toaster oven, was what I was waiting for. I did not expect him to just pick it up and beat the guy.
Well, it didn't get plugged in.
It didn't get plugged in, but I was I did that. That was my also thought. I go, well, they'd have to heat that up, but still, just the idea. He goes, take a look at this toaster oven.
Yeah, he does go. He's like, you can put a slice of pizza in here. It comes out crisp. It's really good.
He goes, I do like when he talks about, you ever put a calzone in a microwave?
Comes out like a lint dick.
Yeah. This is the kind of stuff where I go like, okay, I do feel the Scorsese in a scene like this.
Yeah.
Sure.
Again, this is the movie I'm kind of wanting.
Well, because I like the you got a vampire movie in my gangster movie. Well, you got a gangster movie in my vampire movie.
Yeah.
But then it's like
two great tastes. It tastes great together.
But then it's also like, and there's a comedy that has ruined both of them. I agree. The comedy stuff doesn't work. I think what I'm talking about, I'm maybe not as harsh on this movie as you are, only because, and I think you're in the same boat. It's just, I so want to like this movie.
I do too. Yeah. And again,
I think it's
I do agree with you that in parts it works really well.
And I think
actually when it gets grim and bloody, I'm all for it. And it is literally all the comedy that
I think some of it is coming off of last week's movie too, where I go like, this thing is failing, but it is more interesting than Memoirs of an Invisible Man. It's got more aspirations, and people are trying. It's just they're going in the wrong direction.
Didn't you think the pacing also really got very sluggish?
It really, there's parts where it works, and there's the whole middle is so sluggish. And then when they do finally have sex and fall in love, I'm going like, there's like 20 minutes left in this movie. It's so late in the game with this. It's so late in the game to actually start doing the romance that I'm like, God, you don't have time for this movie.
Well, not just the romance. When it got around to, you've got Vampire Loggia, and then he's turning his men, and then he goes to, or actually before he starts turning his men, he goes to his lawyer, who is Don Rickles. It was at that point, I'm like, getting restless, and even though I'm liking Rickles and
Like I said,
that scene actually is pretty good and creepy, but
Rickles, no notes. Rickles is great in this thing.
absolutely.
And then, yes,
But
I
I
agree.
did.
It's almost as if Scorsese saw this and gone, "Oh, he can. Yeah, I got something
Yeah.
that'll actually work with this because he's
But
fucking great in Casino."
He is. I paused it at that point though. I was like, I'm gonna get something out of the fridge or something, and I look at him like, oh shit, there's an hour left. I'm like, there's a whole hour.
I
left.
did watch this
I
over.
thought
2
I was
days.
getting close to the end.
I did watch this over 2 days, and it's not.
Oh,
The movie doesn't even clock in at a full 2 hours, and it feels a little long.
it really does.
It's just, and I don't quite know what to attribute that to. Is it that the
and
comedy's
nothing
not
in
working?
car. I mean, John Landis in a car chase. You think,
Yeah.
oh, that'll pick stuff up. Every car scene is horrible,
Yeah.
and just I'm like, God, stop it. This is. Like, I don't know how to drive, or I do drive, but now
Yeah.
I fell on the roof,
Oh.
and
How
move
about-
over while I drive,
There's
or
a scene,
why don't you
There's
drive?
a scene in kind of the third act of the movie where they're just going place to place going, nope, Robert Lowe's just not here. How about over here?
I know. When it got to that point, I was
Yeah.
literally, I could not roll my eyes big. I was like, this movie has now become, is he here? No.
Yeah.
Has he been here? No.
Yeah.
Oh, we should keep looking. Where are we going to go? I'm like, is this a plot? Is this how you write a script?
Yeah.
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 Sorry.
Yeah. I know.
Sorry,
No,
sorry.
it's problem. I don't quite know where to put the blame on this thing. I mean, ultimately it falls to Landis, but I don't know what script it was in. I don't know what got done to the script.
Right.
We don't. The budget, as he says, he didn't get much. I think this had a lot working against it, despite the fact it is the fact that it was just kind of handed to Landis. $20 million budget, by the way. Worldwide gross $4.9 million. Oof.
I know.
Oof,
I know.
Oof. But in France, my friend. No.
You know what's nuts is this is another one of those movies. We'll get to this at the end, I'm sure, but this is another one of those movies where I looked at the IMDb reviews, and it was like an entire other race of creatures left.
Oh, are there defenders of this?
Oh no, John! It's all 7 to 10 stars.
Okay,
it's all 7 to 10 stars.
I gotta look at these here.
There's maybe a couple that are like, this was a little bit disappointing. There are like some people that are like 5 out of 10 or whatever, and I'm just, but I was sitting there going, what movie did these people see? And most of them like underrated this movie, and this was a hidden classic.
I feel like people just love to be that like it's the same thing. It's the same impulse that causes people to hate stuff that gets a bunch of great reviews. Are the people who go, actually, I liked it.
I'm contrarian because it makes me feel good.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, look, as you know, I'm always somebody who is trying to find the positives.
You're very forgiving.
I try to focus on what works in a movie. That doesn't mean I'm delusional enough to go,
no.
What a this is not a hidden gem. This is a lot of great potential that unfortunately just doesn't work. I want this movie to work, but when it's over, you're like, this just doesn't work. I also love that people always. I mean, so here's like another one from one of the reviews here is, this is not a slasher flick, but it is great fun. If you're looking for Freddy or Chucky or Jason, this is not the movie for you. There's always this thing about like, you've brought the wrong attitude to it. I see this a lot over on the action shelf too, where it's like, I'm sorry, it's on you for not understanding what this is.
And then you feel like standing up and going, don't you try to guess what I'm expecting.
Yeah, I know. It is always one of those things.
Don't speak for me.
Because it's a lot of those, like somebody will review a Dolph Lundgren movie and be like, okay, it's not Shakespeare. And you're like, we didn't think it was, man.
Yeah.
And it's like, take your fancy dancy taste somewhere else and let us enjoy Dolph with a grenade launcher. You know? It's like, dude, I'm here for that, and I'm telling you, it's not working. Like,
I'm sorry that Innocent Blood isn't Fanny and Alexander, but listen. Well, I didn't ask it to be, but I want it to be an awesome vampire versus mafia movie. That's what I
God, this guy, all of the roles, even the bit parts, are well written and well acted. If you are used to slasher movies, then yes, you will find parts of this slow. Dude, I love vampire movies, and I found parts of this thing slow. And I love Landis. There's no one waving a bigger flag for John Landis than me, all right? I want to love every film he made, but we're catching him in a slump here.
This is a slump, and
It's
it took him
unfortunate.
a long time to work his way back.
Even still, I was looking at his IMDb because I'm going, is he working on something? Where is he these days?
Well, he did that kind of the big TV shift for a while, and then he also did I'm going to just do these small independent things for a while.
Yeah, because I saw Burke and Hare, and it's perfectly enjoyable.
Sure, you got a great cast.
Yeah. And he did direct some episodes of Psych, which were very funny, and that kind of was a good fit for him. And
yeah, I agree.
what the hell is Stan Lee's superhero kindergarten? But he's directed 26 episodes of it. Oh, it's a cartoon.
Oh, wait, John Landis is directing cartoons?
That seems to be what he's been primarily working on.
Oh man,
That's the bulk of his work since 2021 has been 26 episodes of Stan Lee's Superhero Kindergarten starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. How have I not heard of this?
Because people have been protecting you. It's almost like an intervention. Your friends got together and said, "Should we tell them about this?" And we all said, "No."
It's on the Cartoon Channel, not the Cartoon Network. The Cartoon Channel.
Is that a thing?
I guess so.
Okay, got to get back to Innocent Blood, pal. Get back. I have to pull you back.
Sorry. I'm amazed that I've never heard of it. Considering.
Okay, so here's the thing.
Yeah.
I'm jumping us right back in.
Yeah.
And that is, they off to the one guy and LaPaglia's Joe. They're like, you gotta, if the boss man tells you gotta kill somebody, you gotta do it.
Yeah.
He goes, I know, and this is his buddy in the mob is Chaz Palminteri.
Yes.
And Chaz is like, you gotta do that shit, even though I know you're mainly a thief. Yeah. Which is they're letting us know, oh, he's not a killer. And he's like, all right. And then as a show of face in front of the mob, he sees the unmarked van sitting out in front of the restaurant. Yeah. And he's like, oh, those fucking cops. And he goes over there and he smashes the window into the van, and it is a bunch of cops observing them.
One of my favorite performances is this one cop who takes glass in the face, and he really goes for it like a, why?
Yeah. God damn it. And this makes him look good in front of the mob. They're like, yeah, all right. He may not have offed that dude, but he's got our backs.
Yeah. Yeah, because all the gangsters are like, including the late, great Tony Sirico. Oh, Paulie Walnuts forever,
we got Paulie Walnuts in this.
Paulie Walnuts was always my favorite of that crew. Paulie Walnuts and Silvio were the best.
They're so great, and I could listen to them talk all fucking day.
Yeah,
and I want to start pointing using both my index finger and my pinky finger.
Yeah,
it's like, listen, you.
Yeah. You'll come in. And I love that they always talk about like that hairstyle wasn't a character thing. That was how he was. He would go get it done like once a month or whatever. They'd have him put the
silver wing thing that goes up.
They talk about he had a specific hairdresser. Sirico would go in there every couple weeks and get the wings put in.
He is much. I mean, if that was his personal hair, here they tone him down because this is obviously pre-Sopranos. He's great. He doesn't have a huge part in this, but I'm just happy to see him.
Yeah, we sadly lost him this year, which was a bummer, man.
I know. And he is one of the guys out of that cast who was actually a fucking mob enforcer.
Yeah. And he brings that authenticity for sure. That's a guy that is like, that's not an actor. Take a look at that guy, you know.
Yep. So this is a welcome thing, but
you get him and Kim Coates, and like once again, a lot of the background guys are like Loja's gang, and they get lines here and there. They're in the movie a lot, but they're kind of just around.
So, but Chaz Palminteri. They all bump into, or Chaz and Joe bump into hot French chick.
Marie is the character's name.
Marie. And they're like, oh, and Joe's kind of like, you're lovely. Let me put your shoe back on.
Well, and there's even narration from Marie where she's like, oh my God, but no, I can't.
I like this man, but I cannot. And then instead, she then crosses the street. It's a snowy Pittsburgh. This is happening in,
Which
and
is great.
Chaz Palminteri basically almost runs her down.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "You don't fucking touch my car."
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Oh, he's one of the gangsters.
I
can."
But then both Loja and Chaz Palminteri have the same reaction with like, "The fuck is you? Hey, wait a minute."
Yeah, it's like, "I'm angry at you, but you are so fucking hot. Can I take you home?" And she's like, "Fine," and gets in the car, and she puts on the woo woo eyes, and they go to a. They park.
We need to specify the woo eyes because there's about 8 other kinds of eyes she has in the movie.
Right. No, these are woo woo, as in still human colored.
Once again,
and they're just like woo woo.
She's a gorgeous woman, but I don't know that she actually is right for this movie's trying to make her very, very sexy, but she is this kind of European waifish. She's not a va-va-voom. She's not the kind of woman I would think a guy like Chaz Palminteri would go, wow, wow, wow.
Well, there's a line they put in there, which is
like the pixie haircut and stuff. She seems a little bit more artsy kind of type.
Hey, she's working for me, John.
No,
that's what matters.
But that's what I'm talking about. Guys like you and I would go gaga over this woman. But like she would stand out in a negative way on The Sopranos. Like the girl,
they have
where's Drea Di Matteo?
But they're also
like
all attracted to her because she is unique, as in she's not from around here.
Right.
Loja's character gets with her, and he goes, "Normally, I like a little more meat on a girl's bones, but you are well put together."
That's kind of what I'm talking about a little bit. Like this is not the kind of girl Tony Soprano usually went for.
Well, regardless, Chaz is all about it. Mm-hmm. They go park under the bridge to get to make out in the car.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Yeah." And this movie is not this movie's not X-rated, but when early days, they are trying to be pretty.
Well, I don't know if you happen to see
pretty.
They had to cut out a lot of the movie to avoid an NC-17, apparently.
Yeah, but they say it's mainly violence, which
makes sense because I was gonna say, like, unless there were a bunch of additional sex scenes, there's really only a couple moments of sexuality.
But you get this guy, Chaz Palminteri, like going, "Yeah, you're working for me. You feel that?" It's like, yeah. Let's get in the back so little whatever his name can get out and play.
There's a lot of comments about boners in this movie, which I was not expecting. Because the whole thing with LaPaglia later, I was like, oh, good Lord.
Yep. But you're going to be all right, John? So they're
maybe
making out.
Maybe I am a bit prudish. I don't know. But there's something about
and her eyes go bright red, big old contacts. And I don't mind if a vampire makes animalistic noises when they feed. That's a way of doing it.
I like the idea of this.
Just so ADR Panther, like, ow! And then she chomps into his neck and feeds, and the blood just goes blah all over the place.
Which I do actually like that, though. Because
Me too.
Like, the gorehound of it is great. I do agree. I like the idea of, especially when you're presenting this woman as very, put together and high class kind of, and then suddenly see her go eyes red, and the red eyes is very, the Hammer aspect of it, right? The Christopher Lee, he knows what he's doing. The classic Landis thing is throughout the movie, people are always watching old horror movies. That's very Landis.
All right. That's another problem I had with it. This movie, to me, and I don't know where he was in his life, there are lots of problems with it, but this feels like lazy Landis, or Landis who's just, I don't know, clocking in.
Well, it feels like Landis is like, I'm gonna give him a Landis picture. I'm gonna do the Landis
but
stuff.
Honest to God, like, you get one per movie, John, and I'm talking to Landis. You get one per movie, but in this, literally, this is 1990s Pittsburgh, and these poor people, the only thing that is on television, literally the only thing that is on television, are 1940s and 50s horror films. Yeah. It's all black and white horror films.
Well, and one of them's in color, the Rue Morgue one.
Right, the Rue Morgue one. But literally every, and they do watch Dracula or Horror of Dracula.
Yep.
But the whole thing is, like, you only get one because it's literally all anyone sees when they turn on the TV, that's just not realistic. And it kills me that every single person you see watching these, if it's a security guard, if it's a gangster, if it's a cop on a stakeout, anyone watching these is, like, entranced by them too. Yeah. That's not realistic. Every single person is sitting there going, "No, hold on, I gotta watch this." What? You gotta, ask someone to hold on while you watch Bela Lugosi.
Well,
Even
if,
I,
I
the
don't know.
world's biggest fan of
I
this
don't know.
shit.
I feel like you and I might do that.
Well, I might if it's
White
like a
zombies
classic
on.
scene.
White zombies on, everybody. Calm down.
But literally, I was sitting there going, John Landis, stop. That's not because in Into the Night, there is like a couple of those in there too. And it's okay. It's all right. I think Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein is on in it, right?
But, yeah.
It's one of the Abbott and Costello.
No, it's Meet Frankenstein, and it's the scene where he finds all the bodies that
Right.
David Bowie has killed. But that was well used because it's just...
It was well used.
It was on. It's not somebody really watching it. And it's just...
Right.
It's the whole idea of there's no other sound on the scene. You're just hearing the scene as Goldblum is
Yes,
searching
and that
around
is
it.
a good usage.
Yeah.
And he has used it well. But this was just like, hey, look, it's Forrest J. Ackerman. Hey, look, every time someone turns on a TV, it's a Ray Harryhausen movie or White Zombie or something. And I'm like,
cameos.
stop it.
I like the cameos because that's a Landis thing. Well, the
The
cameos.
cameos are fine if they're not like, let's just let the camera sit on it and you go, oh, holy shit, that's Dario Argento.
Oh,
Great.
I clocked the one I didn't catch was Michael Ritchie. I did not see where he was in the movie.
Oh, I like that Sam Raimi got lines, actual lines. That was great.
That was of course, I was most delighted by the Sam.
Of course. And he's sitting there
and-
eating ribs in a meat packing factory.
I'm always delighted.
Frank Oz is great
I was
in
gonna
it.
say
The
Frank
whole
Frank
thing
Oz
of a morgue attendant or a what would you call him, medical examiner?
Yeah.
And he's biting through. He's sewing up a body and then he bites through the thread. That's so gross.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's good. It's good. You get a good Tom Savini, kind of having a
Tom
a
Savini
few
shows
scenes.
up. Yeah, that's great.
I love Savini because I was watching a documentary with him where he was talking about. He goes, "Well, I did the makeup." He goes, "But I did go to acting school."
I've always liked him when
I know.
he showed up.
I like Savini was like, it's like, yeah, the makeup is great, and yeah, it's what I'm famous for. But I did always want to be an actor. Like,
I mean, haven't you seen me in Night Riders?
yeah. Oh, Night Riders. What a weird movie.
I'm a mild defender of Night Riders.
I'm in the same boat. It's another one where the concept I love so much that even though it doesn't fully work,
No, it really doesn't.
But-
And it's also sluggish, weirdly enough.
it's
long.
long. That one's like over 2 hours, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't know if this is necessary. But you've got young Ed Harris, and that guy just rules.
Yeah. But anyway, so
Yeah.
here, so she
Yeah.
she goes to town on Chaz Palminteri. He's only in the movie for what, the first 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, and then he's like, sorry, I got to get back to doing another performance of A Bronx Tale.
And in this thing, I was even enjoying this. Like I don't like the voiceover. I don't like her voiceover. I would cut it out entirely.
It feels
but,
like an after the fact thing.
but it is explanatory. She gets out of the car after she's killed him, and she knows that her victims will come back to life as vampires.
Yeah.
So, and she also wants to cover up that they're vampires about anyway.
That's the first, because that was what I initially thought is like, oh, this is cool. She's making it look like a mob hit. I didn't think of that until later.
She actually had a bag with her when she gets pulled over, and the bag has a towel to wipe up the blood on her face.
Yep.
And she has a sawed-off shotgun in there that she then unloads into the corpse of Palminteri.
Blows Chaz Palminteri's head off.
Yeah, she says basically it's to conceal vampirism, conceal my feeding, because they're very proud in the trivia to let you know that the word vampire is never spoken in this movie. Who cares? We know what the fuck it is.
I never liked
Anyway,
that because I wanted
to
a gangster.
conceal her feeding.
I wanted a gangster to be like, you're a fucking vampire.
Yeah.
If Tony
To conceal my
Sirico had
feeding-
said that, this movie goes up slightly in my opinion.
And also to cut off the connection to the nervous system, which basically means that way he can't restart as a vampire.
Yeah.
So
that's
the later
interesting
victims she's
mythos
not
here.
able to kill.
That's interesting mythos here because it starts to become very zombie-y, where you got to shoot the vampires in the head and they die.
Well, again, I understand that we're not using
doing
the word
crosses.
vampire.
We're not doing crosses or steaks or any of the classic
But
stuff.
we are doing garlic and daylight. It's just sort of like they're just picking and choosing.
And that's, I think, another thing where it's like, I wish you had, when you talk about this being Hammer by way of Scorsese, go Hammer with it. Go really do the crosses and stakes, and
Sure.
Because I would love to. There was a point when I thought, I can't remember. Oh, later when the baseball bat breaks, I thought, run that through his heart. That would have been the vampire movie thing to do, but that's not. It's just kind of
Well,
boring. It's boring to me when a vampire just gets shot in the head and falls dead. And you're like, oh.
Yeah, I know. I was like, really? That's how you could get taken out? And all I could think is, well, then Marie, who doesn't want to be a vampire anymore, just fucking cap yourself.
Well, she does try to kill herself later.
Well, at the end, she's like, I want to see the sunrise.
And he's like, no, I love you.
Yeah, I have suddenly loved you.
Yeah.
I've known you for all of 5 hours.
Hey, listen, Anne, what kind of movie is this? Because I don't know. And once again, love LaPaglia, but yes, because this also threw me when it cuts to the next day and it's the police crime scene, and LaPaglia rolls up. I'm like, wait, are you still undercover? You're now at a murder scene going like, yeah, here's my badge. What the fuck's going on?
Because at this point, we don't know that he's undercover. Now he has shown up at the crime scene of LaPaglia's car, and not only do people let him through, he's talking to the on-scene forensics guy, and I'm like, wait, he's a cop?
Yeah.
And then we find out, and then Angela Bassett, as the supervisor, comes over and is like, what are you doing here? You're giving yourself away. Though she does a good job in about 2 minutes. But you're giving yourself away. And he's like, because this guy was my friend. And she's like, what? A friend? He was a low-down mobster. And he's like, no, he was my friend.
He was my friend, man. And that's when you get the class. All of a sudden, you're like, you've been on it too long. You're over the edge, pal.
Yeah, you're one of them now. You're a little bit half and half.
And I'm going like, Jesus Christ, this movie's been on 10 minutes.
So the two cops that were observing
let's
him
talk
and
about
the mobsters.
Another thing I love to see in a movie, and that is Luis Guzman.
I'm telling you, he gets nothing to do here in this movie. He gets nothing to do, but it's Luis Guzman.
But I love him so much, and I can't wait to see him play Gomez Addams.
It's such an odd choice. Now, I mean, I like that if you look at the original Addams cartoons.
No, that's what I like about the casting. It's going
Gomez is not supposed to be like handsome. So getting someone that's kind of
he's a squat, wide dude. I thought when they nailed that's the first time that somebody's really done the visual of Gomez.
Yes, the visual, but at the same time I'm like, but Luis Guzman, as much as I love him, that voice is always going to be Luis Guzman. So I'm like, how does that voice come out of Gomez Addams? I just don't understand, because he's got that lisp. God love Luis Guzman. He's just so great.
It is one of those things where it's like I said, this movie, the
trailer, by the way, for Wednesday looks great.
I'm so excited. I mean, Tim Burton doing Addams Family is the most obvious thing, and
it is obvious.
I also like though that it's like, oh, but it's kind of a different way in. You know, it's not. Yeah. Also from the creators of Smallville.
Somebody save me.
That I hear that will be the theme to this as well. They go, I'm sorry, that has to be every show. We have to use Remy Zero's Save Me. Everybody remember Remy Zero? No? Okay.
That one hit? Come on, that one hit?
The weirdest thing is in the season finale of the first season when they are playing the school dance, playing the theme to Smallville in the show.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember watching that and just being like, what? Somebody save. And it's just like, wait, Clark Kent's listening to his own theme song?
He's like, I like this for some reason. Hey, this is working for me.
Shut up, Pete Ross. Come on.
Shut up, Pete Ross. Ah, man. Don't take me back there, man. Let's get out.
You know I'm back there right now. So
I know you're rewatching.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, time for an intervention.
You know, it's like any of those kind of Monster of the Week shows. Some episodes are better than others, right?
True.
So, yeah. So let's see. I had her written down as the police captain. According to the IMDb, she's the U.S. attorney.
Oh.
I didn't catch any of that in the movie. I just thought she was like a commanding officer.
Yeah.
Angela Bassett, but according to the credits, she's a U.S. attorney. I don't know.
If we didn't get that across well enough, we both love Angela Bassett. In this case, I think she is in a different movie.
Yeah.
Similar to when we talk about Alan Rickman in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. It's a different movie. It's broader and probably has the comedic tone. But it's just weird.
When the Sheriff of Nottingham,
weird,
when
pressed
the Sheriff
up against
of
everybody
Nottingham
else.
cancels Christmas. Come on, that's good.
Yeah.
Cancel Christmas. It's great. So yeah, let's see. So she's upset, and she goes, "That's it. we're pulling you out right now. You're going into WITSEC. And so he goes into witness protection.
And by doing this, also, while she's having this argument,
you're going into
because
pulling you, what have we accomplished?
Yeah, I know. And the press is there covering this mob slaying.
Yeah.
So she literally pulls him over and does this ridiculous we're besties hug pose.
Yeah.
So that it ends up in the newspaper of this woman hugging this undercover cop.
Yeah.
And now, of course, the mob knows. The mob's like, I knew that Joe was off. I knew there was something about him. Now we know that he's a cop. We're gonna have to kill him.
Can we actually let me just for a second? Does him having been undercover matter at all to the plot of this movie?
Other than him being shown to have not been a true mobster, so therefore he's a decent guy that
I know, but I'm just saying, like, what if the movie just started and he's just a cop making a case against the mob? Why does it matter that they do any, like, him being undercover doesn't matter. Either he needs to be undercover longer into
a lot about, I mean, he has to be the guy that does get invited into clubs and stuff, at least for a little bit.
I guess, but it's really underbaked.
Like it is, as is a lot of the script.
But I'm just going, like, he either needed to have already been pulled out from being there's an idea. Maybe he had been undercover before the movie started, or he needs to be undercover for like the first half of the movie, but he's undercover for one scene.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And I just go, other than like it makes the mobsters mad at him later so that she can save him, they're going to put him in a garbage crusher.
They are so mad at him.
By the way, does our pal fellow Sopranos alum, oh shit, why can't I think of his name?
I know who you're talking about, but I also
David Proval. He lives through this thing. He just gets shot in the foot.
Does he totally live through it?
Yeah, I don't think we see him again after the garbage crusher scene, and that scene ends with him going, "He shot me in my foot."
No, he does show up later when everyone's been turned, and they're like, "What's your problem? Like, what happened?" They're laughing, like, "Oh, dude."
Oh, is he?
And he's like, "I got shot in the foot." Oh, and then
does he die?
No, he gets turned.
Does he?
Yeah, he does. He's the one that they let out of the trunk.
Yes. Now
he's the first one of the gang to get turned.
Right, I forgot.
Right.
Another good actor totally wasted in this thing.
Sure.
Richie Aprile is one of the most despicable characters on The Sopranos.
Yeah, but he got his.
Oh God, I love that scene where his sister shoots him.
He got
Tony's sister.
That's all I'm saying.
Oh, when Janice shoots him, God damn! It's one of those great scenes where he's like, "Were you gonna shoot me?" and she just does. And you're like, "Oh yeah,
I know,
yeah, I love it."
The Apriles, man,
the fucking Apriles. Worst, man. All right, yeah. So this is where we get. Okay, so we get Don Rickles coming in, going.
There was no way we were gonna do this movie without talking about The Sopranos.
No.
There was no way we would do this movie without bringing all that up.
No, because it made me kind of wish
that the DNA.
Could you imagine if the vampires actually did show up on the actual Sopranos?
Ooh, even better. And follow me on this pitch.
Yeah.
Even better. Can you imagine how awesome it would be if a former lifeguard on the Baywatch ended up having to fight vampires? If the vampires came to Baywatch Cove or whatever it is.
Here's the thing I think people never expect about the show is how often Baywatch Nights comes up.
Actually, they probably should have expected it because we are talking about genre stuff all day long, and when it comes to ridiculous blends, dude, I like a wacky blend.
Yeah,
a wacky. I go into Starbucks all the time and ask for the wacky blend. But the idea of Baywatch with vampires will never not be funny to me. God. Will never not be funny.
I kind of want to watch some Baywatch Nights now.
I thought you had the box set.
I don't think it's out anywhere, honestly. Oh, it was released in Australia in Region 4 DVD. I'll have to have that sent over.
Well, you've got a Region free play.
It's true, and I use it to buy things of such quality as this. Oh, good. The pilot's on YouTube at the very least. So.
Good. Yeah. Just to give you a little taste.
Yeah,
the first one's always free, John. First one's always free.
That's a little Hasselhoff versus Vampire right there. No, so you get. By the way, I was thinking about that. I can't believe a young Gandolfini didn't work his way in here as some kind of goon, because he was doing a lot of that kind of stuff around this time.
That's true.
He was the heavy in a lot of movies like True Romance and stuff. So anyway, yeah, Don Rickles shows up and he's like, Robert Loggia, you gotta stop killing people.
He is playing. I mean, there are parts where he goes, "You schmuck."
Yeah.
There are parts where he's doing a little bit, but really, he's one of the straightest characters in this.
Yeah, I know.
And he's the mob lawyer of. It's Sally the what do they call him? Sally the something. Sally the Shark is the name of
Sally
Loggia's
the Shark,
character.
and this is Manny Bergman is who Don Rickles' character
Manny
is.
Bergman is Don Rickles, yeah.
Hey, Bergman, come on, I'm a lawyer here.
Mm-hmm.
What are you looking at, you hockey puck? Could have used some of that. I mean, we are just.
Can I just say that CPO Sharky was one of my favorite shows when I was a kid?
I can't blame you for that. Hilarious.
It sounds ridiculous to say that I loved CPO Sharky.
Well, I mean, I don't know how good a show it really was, but it had.
No,
Don Rickles.
wasn't. It was a sitcom, but it was
had
just,
Don Rickles.
He's funny. He's funny.
That's it, and that's what a lot.
And the whole show was based around him insulting everybody. That was the beauty of the show.
Dude, who wouldn't want to watch that every week?
Well, probably people that are now sensitive to people of different backgrounds and races and creeds.
Yeah, but
because,
at the end of the show,
even on that sitcom, he was like going, "You crazy fill in the blank racial term."
Yeah, but he would. Rickles always weirdly got away with it because he would do that. But I'm a nice guy. Hey.
But at the end, he's like going, no, everyone needs to love each other. And then he'd end with a song about how everyone should love each other.
Rickles was kind of cancel-proof in a way because it was almost like he was grandfathered in. Even in this later years, people go like, "That's Rickles." Everybody wants to be insulted by Rick. He was the one guy who had a pass.
Right. It'd be everyone goes, but then they go, you know what? No.
Yeah. Well, because you'd see everybody laugh, and they go like, well, it's an honor to be thrown slurs at by Don Rickles.
Yes.
Because it was something. We did kind of know he wasn't serious. There was something about that.
Right.
I don't know what it was, man. He was a one-of-a-kind. Truly a one-of-a-kind.
It can't happen now.
No.
It can't happen.
No. And so, and as we were saying, good actor, actually.
Surprisingly so.
Yeah. Let's see here. And this is where we get. I just wrote down Tom Savini as reporter. Tom Savini shows up twice as we just go, "Didn't you hear? There's a big commotion over there."
It is his job in this is literally. I guess he does know Joe the cop.
Yeah, because he's a reporter. Tom Savini.
But his job is literally to jump in places, look really hyper excited, and go, "This thing's just going down over here." And then Joe's like, "Thanks for the exposition."
You'll never believe it. Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
By the way, this person's YouTube channel, you can actually watch the entire series of Baywatch Nights on their YouTube
channel.
So,
my God. Oh, you won't have to have it imported from Australia.
I'll just have to say, we are looking for something to do after Kolchak, Brendan. Maybe we'll watch a little
what a step down, my friend.
A little Baywatch Nights.
What a step down.
We have to do the whole show as Dennis Miller, apparently.
How many episodes were there? And I'll tell you if I'm game.
I mean, they did 2 seasons, so let's take a look here.
40 episodes?
Probably something around there. 44.
Good Lord, I don't think I could do it.
2 22-episode seasons.
God.
Oh, but there's a haunted restaurant. I'm just looking at plot descriptions.
It was X-Files. It wasn't just vampires. It was that
sexy.
guy,
it was
that
sexy
former
X-Files.
lifeguard.
It was sexier X-Files, I should say.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. Oh, Angie Harmon. Okay, wait. Maybe I do need to watch this. I do. I have always loved Angie Harmon.
Yeah. When she's used well, I actually liked.
Less so Yasmin Bleeth.
Was it Crossing Jordan?
No, that
wasn't
Jill
Angie
Hennessy.
Harmon.
Who
was that?
Jill Hennessy, who was great.
Jill Hennessy. I was
that.
Right, but they look similar. Sorry.
Yeah, Angie Harmon, of course, was on Law and Order.
Law and Order, right?
Yeah.
I love that show. How being so transparent. It's like ugly cops, ugly lawyers, but there's always the one token hottie. And whenever the token hottie would be like, I have to leave for other reasons, I don't want to be on the show anymore, introduce the new token hottie. I'm not saying they weren't good actresses, but it was always like you never had an unattractive person.
It was Sam Waterston and a gorgeous woman always that were prosecuted.
And it would always be like you wouldn't have like a character actress woman come in as the next one. It would always be, no, we need another attractive female.
They're all pretty hot now, though, on Law and Order, because you got Jeffrey Donovan as your lead detective, and Hugh Dancy is now the DA, and he's got a hot ADA. And that hunky guy who played James Olsen on Supergirl is Donovan's partner now.
I'm James.
Yeah. Call me James. Nothing against that actor, just poor choice.
Yeah, just poor take on the character. That's I mean, good for them. I haven't watched a Law and Order in literally probably 15 years.
Never miss it, sir. I am a Law and Order.
Wow!
Oh, yeah. This has come up before, isn't it? I'm a huge Law & Order fan. Particularly Original Recipe, although I do love some SVU.
And I do love a spicy, but only if they do it with that Cajun, that dusting of the Cajun blackened stuff. Oh,
I like an extra crispy Law & Order. That's what we call it, organized crime.
Back to, because this is now hour 6 of the podcast.
So Marie meets up with Loja. They drive off together. And he brings her to his house where he offers her an Italian dish, which, is garlic.
Yeah, and she's like, I can't handle that. And he's like, what are you? You got a sensitive stomach. You need to put some food on your bones.
Wait, tell me you're vegetarian. Like, it's that kind of thing,
And then she goes in the bathroom to recover from her near brush with garlic.
And I thought I was in an action shelf movie for a second here, because there's an attempted rape.
Oh, my God. And this is right up to this murder. This movie,
because this is a fucking attempted rape. This isn't very funny.
No, I know. Right up to this murder, this movie is giving me close to what I was expecting and wanting.
It has some humor, but it hasn't yet overtaken the movie.
Right, and it's not trying so hard. It just works it in where characters will say something kind of wacky.
I could even see this movie having some humor, like
again, character based, but not like wacky hijinks.
Kind of like what we were talking about, though, with Frank Oz as the medical examiner. It's like, that's a weird character, Yeah, exactly. In this movie. But he's almost like a Coen Brothers movie, where it's like, there's just a weird, dark character in this otherwise serious crime movie.
So, essentially, he pretty graphically attempts to rape her, like, come on, baby, do you think you weren't going to be doing it? Hey, I'm going to... And then she basically tosses him into the tub, like now she's getting into it, and he's like, oh yeah, baby, but she just panthers on him again, the red eyes, and row.
Yeah, I didn't think about, but the cat people comparison is pretty dead on.
Yep. And then the blood is gouting. He's not totally dead because he screams. And Joe,
I think we also get some choice "you bitch" in here.
We do.
Yeah.
Joe is outside because for some reason Joe was spying on Sally's place. So he hears the scream.
No.
One of the gangsters.
It's one of the gangsters. Joe was outside, but he got knocked unconscious by Tony Sirico.
Right, and he runs in, and he sees the aftermath. It's like
it's Parvol that finds him, and he gives a great Sally.
Yeah. But isn't this the chase scene where Joe chases her into the church?
Let's see here. Henchman running, Marie, because Marie gets shot. Yes.
Yeah, and she goes to the church. Yeah.
Oh, Joe is not yet here, is he? Joe is not yet here. That's a later scene when that's at Rickles' house that he's sneaking around. Joe is under protection at the hotel with the other cops, and he hears Robert Loggia's dead and goes to the crime scene.
That's it.
When he's outside in the snow, she pops up and he chases her.
I gotta say this cracked me up because and it's also
Why
around
is she
this
still
point
there, like hours later.
There's almost a door. Yeah, there's almost a door where this movie walks through and becomes just like, not only is it weirdly tonally weird, but they just give up on storytelling logic. Because at this point, yes, it's been like a half an hour later, he gets to the scene, she's been wounded, and she's just been hanging out on the roof. But here's another thing. Joe, as a cop who's not on this case, I mean, yeah, if you're a detective, they'll let you wander around.
Mm-hmm.
But if you, the detective, find a trail of blood that you believe the killer has left behind, you don't just go wander off by yourself. You say, you and you, come with me, I think, or you let people know. It's like, I think that she's up here. But
Yeah.
no, Joe's just up on the roof, like, I'm just doing this, and everyone's down on the ground, not even knowing what's happening. He finds her shoe. It's a Cinderella thing. He finds the blood, and then she does pop up going, ah!
Yeah.
And then
there's a very like perfunctory jump scare.
yeah, and then she leaps a la, Catwoman or some kind of superheroine,
Yep.
building to building. This is when he starts chasing her and ends up at a nearby church.
Yeah, which is where she's gone to
and
wash the blood off, and he sees the steam coming out. Oh, I'm sorry, no, a dog starts barking at the steam coming out the window.
No, you've jumped ahead. This is what kills me about this thing. First, she's in full-on church,
Right.
and he has tracked her in there, again, without letting cops know I'm on the path of a supernatural killer. But anyway, he runs in the church, and then the camera becomes her POV, and we have no idea what's supposed to be happening. Is she flying? Because the camera's doing this whipping around like it's a bat, but she never changes into a bat in this movie, and he is reacting to it like, oh my God, this woman is, or whatever, is flying around. And then she leaves the church. Then he runs, and he's lost her. I don't know where she is. Then he hears the dog barking. And this is why this drives me nuts. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on a roll. But because he runs for like 4 blocks, he unleashes that dog because the dog is on the scent. So he follows the dog 4 blocks or something to what looks like another fucking church, because she has smashed into a stained glass window, and it's way up in this building that has a shower. Right. And now she's cleansing herself in the shower, getting the blood off her gun wound and all that. And this is what killed me. All right, so then the dog's owner comes over, is like, "Hey, that's my that's my dog there." He's like, "Oh, sorry."
Oh no, it's crazier than that, because he taps Lapaglia on his shoulder, and Lapaglia spins around, puts a gun in his face. The guy's like,
"Yeah," he's like, "Whoa!
That's my dog!" And Lapaglia's like, "Oh, gee, sorry about that."
Comedy beat. And Lapaglia sees the smashed stained glass window.
Yeah.
I think what we're led to believe is there was a church, and a few blocks away, because that guy is wearing like a university shirt.
Yeah.
I think it's a Catholic university.
Oh, well, that didn't make a lot of sense visually to me.
I know,
like
because it looked like it looked like a 4-block long church, because she went in through another stained glass window.
It really did.
But then Lapaglia sees it, and it's several stories up. Then he decides he has to climb. He's a cop, god damn it. He could go around to an actual door. He doesn't need to fucking climb a rain gutter. Fucking this. Anyway, he gets into the upper window. He finds her.
Well, she's hanging above him, right?
Oh, right. Yes. Oh, no, because that's the third place.
Oh, for Christ's sake. You're starting to see the problems with the movie, folks.
Yes, the third place that he follows her to is a thrift store where she's got new clothes.
Right.
He finds her wet clothes, and it's a pretty cool shot, though, because she's hanging from one arm, like it's no big whoop.
Yeah.
Behind him. It looks like a comic book panel.
I was gonna say it looks like a Spider-Man shot is what it looks like.
Yeah, because she's just hanging.
For a split second, I went, Andrew Garfield's in this? I didn't know. No, there he is.
And then she drops down and escapes, and he's like, "Damn, I'm up against something supernatural." I will certainly not tell anyone about it.
She grabs him, throws him on the road, and then, as I wrote here, yells at him in her monster voice to leave me alone.
Oh, yes, but her eyes in this one are green.
Yeah, those are the monster eyes. There's the red eyes, which are the vampire feeding eyes. There's the green eyes, which is I guess the Hulk, I'm angry eyes, hence green.
Well, I think the green eyes are the I'm fighting it eyes, like I'm showing you that I am a monster, but I'm fighting it. And then when she has an orgasm, her eyes go through multiple colors.
Which they thought was way cooler than it is.
Yes, they really did.
Meanwhile,
they thought that was going to be talked about forever.
Robert Loggia's body is rolled into the Frank Oz's morgue, and the guy goes, I don't know, this thing keeps burping, and Frank Oz is like, pretty normal, that's just gas escaping.
Yeah, we also had the forensics guy stick a thermometer into the corpse while it was
That's
still at the
right.
house, and
That's
he
right.
goes, "Hey, this thing should be getting cooler, but it's getting warmer." These are weird takes on vampirism. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Apparently, you can be bitten by a vampire and you will turn within about 2 hours. Apparently,
Yeah, I don't understand that fully, but that's okay. Whatever.
yeah,
This I like because I like the little Frank Oz show, and I love Frank Oz here. So,
yeah,
and him going like, yeah, just leave him over there, and he goes to turn the circular saw on. And he's like, it's not plugged in, and you know what's gonna happen. He goes down to plug it into the floor, and when he comes up, Robert Loggia's sitting up.
yeah. And
What?
apparently, when you turn, you are much more zombie-like and also
It's
confused
very
because
zombie. Is correct.
he's like,
Yeah.
he's
The
not making a lot
hell?
of. He's like, what?
And he looks, he's got the thermometer still in him. Which would that
Yeah,
still just be sitting in him? Like they just jam that in there and go, take him away.
maybe.
Yeah.
I didn't even know they did that.
Yeah.
But yes, he escapes. And what's really weird is, I mean, it is
Is
Sally.
it the goofy of the press conference?
Good Lord. Again, this is me going, no, movie, no.
Well, I'm going
But
like,
apparently,
that's a different movie. That movie could be fun too, but it's
because Sally is like one of the city's biggest gangsters, I guess the middle of the night, there is a press conference in the, I guess the city hospital morgue.
It's
on the
it's a
steps.
nice entryway, that's for sure.
And the cop forensics guy, who he's not, you wouldn't assume he's the medical examiner, but he's answering the questions of the press.
He's like a
and he's
CSI guy, basically, yeah.
yeah, and he's like, yeah, Sally's dead. We're not sure the killer is.
The joke is that we don't have much to say. The one thing we can say for sure is that he is dead. Cut to he runs right
Cut to
behind
him running across there with all the blood
the
all
only thing
over
that
him.
did make me laugh because he's a good performer is Frank Oz does a nice take to the audience, like, huh? And then keeps running.
Yep.
And he's still holding the saw.
Yep. Yeah, it becomes wacky where it's like cop and medical guy
I
chasing
chuckled
the
slightly just because Frank Oz is funny.
Slightly is about all you can do with
It's
this
like
movie.
because and it was just me going, Frank Oz.
Frank Oz. I wish you were giving Jake Blues all of his stuff
The
back
man's
in
a
the
treasure.
prison.
By the way, I had forgotten there's a Jim Henson cameo in Into the Night.
Yes, there is.
He's arguing with someone on a phone, and like a guy looks at him angrily, like, "I gotta go," and clicks and walks.
I
off.
just still love Blues Brothers. With does this come in a Miss Piggy? Do you also have a Miss Piggy?
Yeah. I do love John Landis's friendship with the Henson and Muppets guys. Is very fun. I just want to hang out with John Landis. I don't know about this movie, but I want to spend some time with
Landis.
You actually got to meet John Landis, which I'm so jealous of because he's always been a big hero of mine.
I mean, for many reasons, mostly because of the death of 3 people. For many reasons, I wish that Twilight Zone thing had not happened.
Yeah,
it was probably necessary just for safety changes to safety.
Well,
on
I mean,
film
isn't
sets.
that what most of these things? Unfortunately, the only positive that comes out of it is people go, "Let's not do that again."
Let's not do that again. And also probably Landis learning like, oh, I have been like a young devil may care. Like, no, dude, let's just do it extreme.
Yeah.
But I will say that's what really struck me when I was meeting him and talking to him. He is so friendly.
Yeah.
He's so nice. And I know that he is greatly to blame for the death of 3 people. And that hurts me because I want him to be blameless, and he's not.
He is, but I mean,
he owns it. But it's still
he owns it, and it's through irresponsibility, not John Landis had those people murdered
he's
and got
not
away with it.
Bloodthirsty evil man, of course. But
yeah.
And he would do anything to change it. I know.
It's the same thing with the Matthew Broderick thing, right?
Yes, yeah.
Where
the fact that mother and daughter were killed by him in a car. It's horrifying.
It's a horrible tragedy. I don't look at it and go, oh man, the dark side of these men revealed. It's an unfortunate thing. And John Landis has said that. He goes, not a day goes by I don't think about that, because of course you couldn't. You couldn't fully get over that.
I will say that because of his work, because of his personality, I'm pro John Landis, and
Also, the other unfortunate thing is his son is a raging asshole of epic proportions, which is just not uncommon. I mean, hell, even the world's greatest, our beloved Tom Hanks has a complete shithead of a son,
Look, he just doesn't want to be told what to put in his body. All right, he doesn't want to be vaxxed. Okay,
that's the kind
he's
of
not.
thing.
John, he's not like us sheeple.
But
okay, he's not like us.
It's always
sheeple.
one of those things where I guess that's the rebellion against the parents, though. When you have guys like Landis and Hanks who really are known as two of the sweetest, nicest guys around, and they raise sons who are just total pricks.
I gotta imagine that's just some awkward Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Is you got Colin, who everyone loves.
Well, yeah, Colin is just like, well, there's a chip off the old block, huh?
Yeah, and then you got what's his name? Chet.
Chet Hanks.
Maybe that was the mistake.
Yeah.
Literally just naming him Chet.
And then he's got another son that you never hear about who works in the technical side of film and is just, I think, quietly a professional in the industry.
Well, good.
Well, actually, I did see a photo that was the Hanks family at Thanksgiving, either last year or the year before, and it was all the sons but Chet who did not come to Thanksgiving. And you're like,
ouch.
Yeah.
Still, I would love to have dinner with the Hankses.
Oh my God, yeah, that family.
Anyway,
Charmers.
So yeah, we now have Vampire Loja, which I have to admit I had forgotten.
Actually, I had too. I had forgotten this whole side of it of the vampire gangsters. Because in my memory, this was a vampire killing mobsters who falls in love with a cop. That was the plot of the movie in my memory of it. And so, by the way, this fall on NBC, it's Vampire Loja. Geez, now I'm a vampire.
Count Loja.
Hey, come on, kids. It's all right. It's Count Loja over here.
His scenes, again, this man, as we all know, Loja could do anything, and he could be crazy funny.
A treasure.
But the whole thing here is he has to take an awkward turn because the script is making him. He has to be, I'm still Sally, but as he grows in his vampirism, first it's freaky to him, and then he starts loving it, and then he becomes this like cartoon villain where he's like going, I can do anything!
And I am fine with that trajectory. That could be a good story for a villain of a guy going, what the hell is this? And then going, wait. The power of it.
The power
now
of
I can
Look
own
at me.
this city. Like really go comic book supervillain with him. And he
he does at the end.
Yeah.
He actually says, I am, whatever his last name is, I am Manicelli or whatever.
Doesn't he actually go to like, I am God?
He says, I am the light.
That's it. There you go. It's
as he's burning.
By the way, don't look up the later years of the man. It's very sad. I mean, it's just
Well, now I'm doing it. Thanks.
It's Alzheimer's, where he does show up in that second terrible Independence Day, but he was literally like propped up and didn't understand where he was or what was going on, and his wife had to like feed him the couple lines. And I remember seeing that movie.
It's like those last few con appearances of Stan Lee.
Yeah, it was that, except in a major movie where I'm going like, maybe it would have been better to honor him by not putting him in the movie again.
Yep.
Because he was just like, and I remember seeing the movie and going, oh my God, is that Robert Loggia? And they put him back in the ill-fitting general's uniform, and he waves, and you're like, oh God. Yeah, he did not last long after that. So, but hey, let's remember him speaking of Tom Hanks, of him playing that big piano, huh?
Are you kidding me? Talk about a thing that'll live on forever.
Yeah.
Just big.
Will
live on forever.
And this movie will be forgotten, unfortunately. Well, maybe
unfortunately.
Probably fortunately. But I'm just saying, like, this does nothing to taint the legacy of.
Again,
of the
we
great
are being.
Loja.
I mean, we're not even being completists because there are thousands of vampire, werewolf, Frankenstein movies we haven't watched.
And we've gotten the emails about the ones we didn't watch. Don't worry, folks.
Have we?
Not too much, but I'm always.
But no, I know there are
hear
some
about
that
one,
I sit there
go,
going, oh.
I guarantee you there are people who listen to our show go, why didn't they cover my favorite? And I
yeah,
promise
exactly,
you,
absolutely.
There's only so much time in the day.
But yeah, the whole thing is like, even this, I would have happily skipped over, but we are being completists. It's like, okay.
This is where we get, once again, Tom Savini going, hey, Joe, didn't you hear? Sally's alive. It always seems like he's about to get in his car and go, I gotta go.
Yeah, they thought he was dead, but apparently he's not dead. He's alive, and he's over here. And
Anyway,
then Joe's like, oh, I gotta check this out.
out. Yeah. I did think it was weird that he said Savini out when he would leave a scene. That was Savini on the roll. Yeah. So
Savini out.
And so just as Joe is about to do something with information, Marie lands on his car like a fucking superhero once again. Crushes this car. Jesus Christ. She leaps off the top of could have just killed Anthony LaPaglia here. I don't fully, and just so he gets out, it's like, what the hell? And then she speeds off in the car, and he's got to get up on the fucking hood of this thing. And we're speeding. This isn't working for me. This action, this weird action beat, and then he crawls back into the car through the windshield.
Well, she's also kind of weirdly helping him by doing these like hard stops, which is actually throwing him in the car,
right?
Because she actually wants him in there, but instead of just letting him climb in, she's like, "Does this help if I do this?"
I'm going, better movie just goes to cop and vampire team up to fight mobsters. Great. Just do that. Don't do this awkward, like, you crazy broad, I can't believe, too much of this stuff. It's like, just get to them get to them teaming up, and then as they're working together, you can build the romance. But there's so much resistance to working with her that then when he kind of reluctantly works with her and then has to immediately fall in love with her too, there's not time to do those two things at once. That's what doesn't work for me.
There's also the whole thing with, this was just a little beat during that scene where I was sitting there going, why is this happening? And like, she breaks into the car, and then she, for some reason, I mean, she ruined the top, the roof of it.
Yeah.
But when she starts up his car, she does, for like a good minute, smash out the front windshield.
Yeah.
There's no reason to do that. There's no reason for her to do that other than to set him up being able to climb in through that.
Right.
But that's before he's trying to get in. So why did she do that? Does she just want the wind in her hair? What the fuck is that about?
I just like to feel the breeze.
Oh, man.
So Don Rickles comes home to find Count Loggia in his kitchen. Hey, you doing? It's me, Count Loggia. Don't be afraid. I need a cape.
And he's, of course, he's freaked out. He's like, I thought you were dead. And then Loggia's also going through all of his booze. And the thing is that booze isn't working for him anymore. And then eventually...
He goes, what's that? A raw slab of meat?
Yeah, he grabs a raw slab of meat, starts sucking on it.
I will say... This actually did gross me out. Him sucking the blood out of us. I don't know. Like, all the stuff we watched, this is one of the few things that actually did make me go, ugh.
Agreed.
Maybe because that's something I can... A lot of the stuff with horror movies where I talk about people, like, being disturbed by them, I'm going, yeah, but none of this could happen. None of it is practical.
None of this could happen. But in this case, it looks like he has actually...
Yes, I have opened up a package of beef in my life and seen the blood in it, so I can comprehend this. There's this weird point, too, where he's mildly, like, burning it on the burner and then going,
Watching him tear into raw beef is not something I thought I would ever see.
No, I will say. Please tell me they showed this clip when he died at the Oscars, right? I will remember.
Jesus.
Remember that time
again,
Robert
Loggia goes all out? He does go all out because
that is the thing. He is here to play, much like a lot of the other people. It's like, maybe the tone isn't clear, but everybody is game in this movie. Yeah. Nobody's phoning it in this thing. Maybe Landis, as you're saying, but I don't even know that Landis is. This screams to me as a guy scrambling after, like, the last one didn't work, and he goes, let me go back and give it's I call it the Cameron Crowe syndrome, because it's been Cameron Crowe's, like, last 4 movies have been him trying to understand what a Cameron Crowe movie is. And
trying to find his way back.
And it's like, why don't you guys like this? It's just Jerry Maguire again. You're like, yeah, it's kind of the problem, man.
Yeah. Try something else.
Yeah. No, he's like, no. Well, I did, and nobody liked it. So, do you guys want to see it say anything again? Kind of. No. And I feel like that's a little bit of what's going on here, where he's like, okay, funny and scary at the same time with a lot of blood. Yeah. That's the Landis tone. But it feels like Landis is doing an impression of himself here.
That's not good.
No, you don't want to do that. So I think that's,
Again, these are our hot takes.
well, and that's kind of though what I feel more so than the checked out thing. I think that's what it is. It's a guy almost trying to go, how do I do this again? Like,
Yeah.
how do I be John Landis again? Like he's thinking. He used to just be a guy who was doing it. Now he's thinking about how to be John Landis.
Right.
And it's kind of, so he's playing the beats, but the
That's why I
sincerity is
said it
gone.
feels lazy. It does feel like he's just doing what you expect of
Yeah.
John Landis, and that doesn't
Now,
satisfy.
He's not, and then is it the? I think it's the next movie after this is Beverly Hills Cop 3, which
Oof. This is not a good run.
no, and that one's less his fault because I do know that Eddie really fucked him over on that thing.
That's true. I don't want to do a comedy.
Yeah, and so that, but unfortunately, he took the blame on that. That was literally the next movie was Beverly Hills Cop 3. Oh god, and that, I mean, this is kind of the end, man, because Beverly Hills Cop 3, The Stupids with Tom Arnold. Anybody
Holy
remember
shit,
that thing?
I forgot about The Stupids.
And then I guess in an attempted comeback, Blues Brothers 2000.
oh, dear Lord.
God.
You know what?
Oh.
I'm going to say this to our listeners, and I don't necessarily know. I don't know what your faiths are, but tonight, say a little prayer for John Landis.
And then he made something called Susan's Plan that I've never even heard of.
Susan's Plan, I have heard of, never saw.
Nastasia Kinski, who we just mentioned. Nastasia Kinski, Billy Zane, and Michael Biehn. Interesting cast. And Dan Aykroyd doing his pal Landis a favor, I think. Oh, and thank God Joey Travolta's in it.
Ho, ho, ho.
They picked the right Travolta.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah. So he's doing that. He's like, yeah, get the boys over here, because we got to keep this movie going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there it is. The goons come over. They're watching Dracula. They're loving it.
Yep. Again, one per movie.
This is about the fifth one that I started writing it down, because early on I wasn't even writing it down. Meanwhile, well, this is where we get the, like, we're almost talking about vampirism, because we get Joe being like, well, what are you? And what do you want? You looking to drink blood? Oh, that's crazy. But the thing about it is, I get that they want to be clever, not saying vampire, but wouldn't somebody, like, I would say vampire to describe, so I would be like, so like a vampire. Not that she would call herself a vampire, but we do see all these people watching vampire movies.
That's
so
what
wouldn't
I'm
their
saying. Like, if this
be,
is that world,
Yeah.
you could posit, and it would be dumb,
Yeah.
but you could posit that this world doesn't have or has never known that term.
Yeah.
But then you can't have Bela Lugosi on TV or
Right.
Christopher Lee. So if Dracula exists, yes, the natural thing, if you see someone who is drinking blood from someone's neck, you say vampire.
Right.
You don't come up with a different term.
Yeah, some kind of,
She's a bloodsucker.
yeah.
Okay. All
But-
right, great.
But I mean, and I could see it. Maybe it's like, well, we don't use that word. Like that's a pop culture.
Sure,
thing.
yeah.
But-
Yeah, it's like
but-
that's what you call us.
Yeah. No. Yeah, we've been trying to wipe away that word. Hey, that's our word. There you go. It's a slur in the community.
Sure.
I don't know, anything, something, do something. And then he goes, well, there's one thing. She goes, I'm not like them. He goes, well, you're a killer like them. And this is where once again the tone kind of shifts. Just Anthony LaPaglia. Is that what you were looking for, John? That felt really dramatic. Is that the tone of this movie?
Yeah, could you help me out here with because I've got an idea, but
I saw what Loja was doing, and I'm not doing that. It's true. LaPaglia is kind of never playing it comedic.
he gets a few expressions.
Yeah,
but you're right. It's not like
so.
that.
It is kind of like, well, I'm trying to do like action hero guy, but everybody else seems to be yucking it up. So...
Yeah, and every now and then you can actually see the stress on his face when he's like, "Wait, is this what you're wanting? I do this?"
This is kind of early in his career, so I'm sure this is like a big break where he's like, "Oh, I'm a lead in a studio movie," and so I'm sure there is a thing. It's like, tell me what I'm supposed to do here.
Yeah,
I don't know, because once again, great actor who I've loved in so many things. Any episode of Frasier that he's on, he is fucking hilarious.
Oh yeah, he owns that.
And
again, proving that the guy has comedy chops.
100%. He would crush anytime he was on his Daphne's brother. I mean, he got at least one, if not a couple Emmys for that. So the guy's great. And then of course, who could forget Without a Trace, which he
Not
did
me.
forever. He did that for a long time. Oh, going back to Murder One too, which was great. Back in the
Murder
day.
One. I liked Murder One.
Murder One was good, and he was on that. He was on both seasons of that.
Yeah.
Because apparently when they tried to do it, it's like, how about another murder? And everyone went, nah.
Yeah.
I don't understand
You know
that.
what? Yeah, there was the one. We're
Yeah.
good. Thanks.
It was Murder One. I didn't want to see Murder Two. I guess he's got a new show coming on called Florida Man.
Oh, good. It'll be Florida jokes.
Oh, it's him and Clark Gregg. Ooh.
Ooh, I like me some Clark Gregg.
Hey, this could be good. This could be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he's playing a gangster in it.
John?
Yeah.
We have to keep talking about this movie.
Can I just mention real quick, though, that he was cut out of the movie Road to Perdition where he played Al Capone? And then I'll move on.
Whoa.
Yeah. Anthony Paglia shot some scenes as Al Capone, and they all got cut in that movie.
And he probably packed on the weight.
Well, he's kind of a bigger dude to begin with. I mean, he's not like a fat guy, but he's got that Russell Crowe Australian guy build where it takes very little to pack on the weight.
Yeah, true.
It's ever like balancing between burly and fat.
So he's essentially one all-you-can-eat Chinese food buffet away from being.
Yeah. I think that's the thing where it wouldn't take a lot for him to pack on the weight.
Yeah,
but he does.
And I say that as a very large man myself.
Yeah.
And I would kill to look like an Anthony LaPaglia.
Yeah. It's just the genius of the modern day Russell Crowe career, where he's always put on the weight for a job. He just keeps taking jobs, though. Gotta be fat, and not my choice. It's the work. All right, so somebody who does not like Count Loggia is Don Rickles' wife.
Nope.
Doesn't care for it one bit. And when she goes down to the basement, he's torn out Don Rickles' throat.
And that's pretty good.
Pretty good. Not as good as the way Rickles goes out in this movie. Best part of the movie to me.
Holy mackerel, that scene.
I know, and you're like, man, why isn't there more of this in the movie? I want to see, once again, you talk about, there's the movie I want to see.
And again, that is the darker, grimmer, more horror film.
Yeah.
And it is, and also it has a cameo by Linnea Quigley, or however you pronounce her name.
Linnea, I think it is.
Linnea Quigley. And I was like,
icon.
even little bit parts for B movie people.
And her husband,
Thank you, John.
who plays that orderly.
Yeah, the orderly with the kind of who looks like Boner.
Yeah.
From you didn't think I'd bring up a Growing Pains reference.
Oh, who could resist though? Because the thing I love about that character is I love that modern day super Christian Kirk Cameron was once on a show where his best friend was named Boner. And he has to think about that from time to time.
And he had the gall to get an actress kicked off because she had been in Playboy.
I believe before she was on the show. I can't remember.
Yeah, she was in Playboy before she got on the show.
Was on the show, so it's even a thing where it was just in her past.
Right. But he was like, get her off of here. I won't be around her. I'm okay calling a man Boner.
Yeah.
But I will not have this woman who has, in her past, appeared naked in a magazine.
Yeah.
Anywhere near
But then get over here, Boner.
And meanwhile, he's saving Christmas for all of us.
Yeah.
For all of us.
Steve Johnson, by the way, is the name of that orderly who is a makeup and animatronics guy.
Oh, okay.
That's where he and Linnea Quigley met, of course.
Well, that's so sweet.
But
they're
not currently married.
So it is a pretty great scene that we have Vampire Loggia discovering like, I can turn all my buddies, all my gang into vampires.
We also get
now.
him just taking this kitchen knife that Rickles' wife puts in him. He's like,
Yeah.
Good.
She runs out into the street.
This was a good Count Loggia moment because he's threatening here, actually. He is menacing. And Loggia played a good bad guy anyway, so you put him in the... I do like they get more monstrous and corpse-like when they haven't had blood, and then that kind of revives them. That's good. Right. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I like that. Like, they start off looking like corpses because they've been killed, but after they feed, they start looking healthier.
Yeah.
For one reason, it's so weird that I guess because most of this takes place in a night or 2 nights, that Loja's walking around. At one point, he goes, this shirt is disgusting, because he's wearing the same shirt he'd been killed in, and it's covered with blood. So then they show that he's gotten a fresh shirt, but he's still wearing his jacket, which is equally caked in dried blood.
Yeah, but
could
see,
have gone for an extra jacket.
You
too.
see, I like the look of the jacket this way. Though.
Yeah,
that's the.
Yeah, this movie makes no doubt.
Yeah, this is the Count Loja costume.
Blah.
I would love it if he was like, and hey, Tony Sirico, go get me a cape.
Yeah.
That would have been the movie I made. Would have had him in a cape by the end of this thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Brendan, you want to make sure your inputs are correct there, because I don't think you're coming through on your microphone now.
Oh. Thanks, pal. It was, in fact, the cord had fallen out of my Yeti.
Yeah.
It keeps doing that.
Well, the audience can hear that
All
just as well as I can. There you go. Now you sound good again.
All right, I'm back and better than ever.
So meanwhile, yeah, this is where Tony Sirico and it's Tony Sirico and Pylov that grab LaPaglia here when he's looking in the windows.
Yeah.
And this is where they're going to take him to the garbage crusher.
Right. It's like, you crossed us. We're gonna get rid of yous.
Yeah, you guys gonna be so sorry.
So they take him to.
I mean, I will say this is the thing though about this. I do like that this is Pittsburgh, but everybody still sounds like they're from Jersey.
Oh, of course.
Nobody's trying to do like a Pennsylvania accent, which is a thing. And has
it may be,
sound.
but I wouldn't be able to narrow it down. I don't know what it is.
It's similar to that Baltimore, that kind of like use guy, like that really kind of sound in it, right?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's loose. That's Minnesota. It's all you get into that stuff. I need Fred Armisen.
Sort of a Midwestern thing.
Yeah, that kind of thing where it's like I remember Travolta talking about really trying to nail it for Hairspray, which is such an interesting movie to go like, I'm really gonna hit this. Oh, that was also Baltimore though, wasn't it?
Yeah, of course.
Philly's got that same kind of sound. I've heard it done. Stallone's got a Philly. I don't know. But he's also got other stuff.
Stallone's got a Philly.
Well, Stallone's a Philly guy.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He's gonna fly now.
Yeah, famously. They got a whole statue of him there.
I know.
So, and I'm still waiting on that RoboCop statue in Detroit. I hear it's being worked on.
It had better be all that I've dreamed of.
I know, man. I was a big supporter of that. So they but at the last minute before he's able to be crushed, Marie drives in a car and starts taking guys out.
She's already
protecting
him for some reason.
She hits Sirico with a car, then gets out, reaches down and snaps his neck. Poor Paulie Walnuts, man.
I know.
And I was bummed because I wanted more of him in this movie. I love that guy.
Yeah, again, he really doesn't have much to do.
He really doesn't. He's just one of the guys, which is basically before Sopranos. That's kind of how he is in every movie, right? He's just kind of
This is the scene where Proval gets shot in the foot, right?
Yes, because then it's LaPaglia pulls his ankle holster and shoots him in the foot.
Yes.
While Marie is fighting Loja a little bit,
and she's vampire fighting, like she throws people, super strengthy.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, from a technical standpoint, I have no issue with any of the violence or anything like that at all.
Oh no! In fact, the violence. I mean, this has made it sound like I'm anti a comedic vampire film, and I'm certainly not. It's just in the case of this, with this premise, I want a gritty crime mafia movie with vampires in it. So the blood, got no problem.
Oh,
bring it.
Yeah, loads of it. And that's a Landis thing. I was, once again, watching Into the Night, I go like, man, he did get a lot of blood in this, like, seemingly, which I adore. Landis himself gets blown to pieces in that movie, if anyone recalls. He takes a pretty good shotgun blast to the chest in that thing. Because he is just one of the hitmen in that movie. No lines.
Right.
But I'm like, oh, yeah. When all the guys get out of their cars with the guns, like, who's that awkward nerd in the back with a gun? With his big glasses and tall, skinny Landis, you know.
But I like that it's casting against type.
It is. He goes, I really wanted to stretch myself as an actor. He speeds off. I love a vampire opening up with a gun on another vampire. Is a weird moment in this movie because he's
it is
away
strange.
She's like,
she just
blam,
stands
blam,
there
blam,
and is
blam,
like blang, blang, blang.
Yeah, he gets away and she's all upset because she's. Once again, I wish some of the stuff had been more explored when she's talking to LaPaglia about like, man, he's out there and whatever chaos he causes is my fault because I made him into that thing.
Yeah,
interesting.
Like her guilt is an interesting character note that is dropped in occasionally and not dealt with.
Mm-hmm. And just like Vincent B. of IMDb says, this is just Grand Theft Auto 3 with vampires. I couldn't help but think this is so much like GTA 3. And he goes, I got on here and I made the movie video game connections. The mafia crime boss in this movie, played by Robert Loggia, is named Sally, which is the same name as the gangster in GTA 3.
So obviously a movie made long before there's a GTA 3 is copying GTA 3.
If you can rent it, I seriously suggest you watch the movie and try to remember it was made 8 years before the video game. As if I've played GTA 3, but I love that this guy is just going like, once you see it, you can't unsee it. The connection is so
I love
obvious.
that he's like going, most people when watching this movie will not be able to remove this video game from their minds. I'm encouraging you to remove it.
This is the best. Perhaps it is just coincidence, but even the street shots remind me of the game. Maybe the folks at Rockstar got some ideas from this movie, but I think it is better than any crime horror movie you will ever see. 10 stars.
Christ.
I know.
10 stars.
Yeah.
That's a 10-star review right there.
A 10-star review where the only point he makes about the movie is it's so much like GTA 3. It's almost as if GTA 3 was a movie. Yeah, I remember all those vampires. The fuck? Also...
Yeah, and he goes, am I right? And everyone in the replies are like, no, we have no idea what you're
I also love, the gangster's also named Sal. You know, a really unconventional name for a gangster.
Like, you got to see the connection. You mean a very common Italian name? Salvatore? Usually shortened to Sal or Sally.
This is pretty great, too. This comes from the review. By the way, I love this username. Vivian Lee's #1 fan. I don't know. Maybe because I was born and raised in Pittsburgh is why I like this movie. Or maybe it's because I'm obsessed with vampires. Or maybe the sexiness of Anne Perrault. Or once again, we're not quite sure. Yeah. So anyway, I just love this whole thing. Great cinematography of Pittsburgh. Immaculate acting. Great chills. Love all the erotica too. 10 stars.
The erotica that they're talking about is because everything is an awkward, fit in this movie.
There's not a lot of heat
the erotica could have been a through line, but really she's naked at the beginning, and it's not it's not meant to be. She's just walking around her apartment naked, but you're like, wow, attractive woman giving us everything because it's not even like hidden. It's full frontal nudity. But then there's a love scene.
It's almost so
that is the erotica.
But
there's nothing else in
the nudity thing, and this is what I was talking about, was like, I'm not a prude, but it's almost so blandly presented that I became uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so casual that I was like...
This is interesting that you had such a problem with it. You need to examine this.
Maybe it is. I don't know, but it was almost like it was so private or something like that, where I was just like, oh my God.
Well, I mean, I think that was
voyeuristic
kind of the point.
Kind of
it's
thing.
an openness there, and you're supposed to be brought in intimately into her life.
And then my problem
like that scene in Shortcuts where Julianne Moore just does an entire scene bottomless talking to her sister in it, and you're like, I know that this is a good scene between two good actresses, but I can't keep my eyes off the fact that she's just walking around with no pants
It's an interesting thing, and I heard somebody talk about this once, which is, when somebody's face is blown off in a movie, some part of me knows it's prosthetics, but when someone's naked, I'm going, that is their body. That is real. It is a real thing in a fake world that does kind of add to the sex scene. I have a problem with only because there is no chemistry between these two has been established.
Right.
So what's supposed
there's
to be
no build.
What's
there's
supposed
no
to be
realistic,
erotic doesn't have any heat. So it feels awkward. Yeah, that's what you're talking about. It's not that I'm once again like offended by it. I'm just going like, well, this is not earned in any way. And the handcuff thing is like, oh, that's an interesting idea on paper. Once again, where it's like, you don't trust me, you think I'm dangerous, so you can handcuff me, which adds this kind of kinkiness to it. But once again, I know so little about their characters or relationship. It's not sex. It's the same thing we talk about over on the action shelf, which is people shooting guns is not inherently exciting. Same thing with people having sex is not inherently sexy in a movie.
Right, exactly.
And that's what this is. You're going like, they're two hot people, and they're
it
really...
It depends on, you actually have to build to these things.
Yes.
It is not a token, unless you're just a perv who needs to see naked people. But
Roger Ebert.
Sorry, that was judgy. Unless the thing for you is just nudity and people having sex. But
especially
the whole thing,
in today's world where that is at your fingertips 24/7.
Absolutely.
It's just one of the reasons why gratuitous sex scenes are not as common these days in movies, I feel like.
Right, exactly. Because you can get that anywhere.
It's not a selling point, really, for your movie as much.
But if you are telling a story, which any film, let's hope, is doing, then to make this effective, to make it either be hot or make it be disturbing or whatever, you have to build to it. There has to be some organic linkage to where you go, yeah, I totally get it. They have had a chemistry. There's this build. They're not even sure of what each other means to them. In this case,
the sex
scene it's just time for a sex scene.
The sex scene here is fairly graphic, but that's the thing I think you're talking about, which is there are so many more movies that have way hotter scenes with way less graphic sex and without people taking their clothes. I mean, people talk about that in the, you watch old movies from the 40s and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And my God, the heat between like Alan Ladd and Veronica Lake, and nobody's taking their clothes off or doing anything. But God damn.
Well, you can also jump up even more graphically. You could jump up to the remake of The Postman Always Rings Twice, which was so hyped because of the sex scenes between Jack Nicholson and Jessica Lange. And the thing is that there's no nudity in those scenes. It's just the fact that in a movie, you're watching two people who are crackling with energy from the beginning when they meet.
That movie,
and then there's
dripping.
Animalistic, clothed sex, and you're like, that is crazy hot. And I didn't see a damn thing, but he is giving her oral sex, and she's sitting on a countertop,
sex, man.
And you're
that
like,
that movie is soaked through
fire.
With sex, man. I can't believe that thing. And also, tonally it's working. That is a dark story, and the sexuality is really well baked into the plot. Here, this kind of doesn't seem like it's a sexy movie until it is. You know what I mean? Like, we had the nudity at the start, then the only sexuality.
That's what I'm saying. Erotica is not a thread in this. It just pops up wherever it's like.
That's kind of the problem. Is I'm going like, this needed to be, because you could have made it sexier. You could have made her seduction of these guys more sexual, but it's really not. It's basically like, you want to get in my car? Yeah, and then she kills them. It's not. And then the ultimate, once again, how is this not an action shelf movie? The ultimate like cheap thing, strip club scenes.
Yeah.
Which has nothing to do with anything, of course.
Well, I mean, you could sit there going, all right, it is a mob movie, and certainly if The Sopranos has
the bada bing.
Pretty much every episode will have a quick jump to the bada bing, which is not erotic either. It's like, it's a strip club.
Well, this is where they meet. That's the thing The Sopranos did by having it be a series, of course, though, too, is we kept going to the bada bing to the point where, yes, it had been inured to us as just like, well, yeah, it's just the business Tony runs where they hang out. It's not. Those were never scenes. No strip scene at the bada bing was I like, it really was. But
I did like in this, where it is just another example of like, well, the vampire mobsters are still doing what the mobsters do.
Yes.
So they go to the strip club, which is apparently, even though we haven't seen them there before, it's a place they go to a lot. So here they walk in. I did like the whole bit because Vampire Loja is just like, hey, it's Sally. And they're like, dude, I thought you died and everything. So, but then when he approaches the strippers and they're like, it's Sally, but he does like a monster face at him, like, and it was at least funny for having strippers going,
Count Loja, how you doing? Do you like my cake?
Scared strippers of the vampire gangster. Great.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, so now Marie and Joe have teamed up because they both want to stop the vampires.
Right.
Loja goes to Sam Raimi to hide out in his butcher fridge, which, once again, I was like, hey, Sam Raimi! Because a guy who you talk about if I have affection for John Landis, Sam Raimi is definitely one of my guys. I love, love, love Sam Raimi.
Yes.
And who Another guy who even his bad movies are kind of interesting. And he doesn't have that many bad movies, I don't think, really. So, you know,
I mean, if you like one, generally speaking, you'll like them all because he's not for everybody.
Yeah.
So some people would say they're all terrible movies, and anyone that doesn't like a particular director will say that.
Yeah.
But
even
Raimi, for me,
something-
always scratches an itch, which is a Raimi itch.
It's like even
this
something
sounds
even
terrible,
something,
and I'm so sorry I said.
But I was gonna say even something where he's like totally doing a corporate for hire job, like Oz the Great and Powerful. There are moments in it that are so Raimi that you're like, I can't believe I'm watching Disney's Wizard of Oz movie and I'm looking at Evil Dead shots in it. You know.
Yep.
So that kind of stuff. Once again, I just go like, I had a good time. It's not a great movie, but Raimi made it entertaining. So let's see. So he goes there. I do like the shot when the goons walk in and he's just laying on slabs of meat. That's good.
Yeah.
That's very
Yeah.
super
He's because he gets a little burned in the sun, right?
Yes, that's why he goes to the meat locker, right? Because
Yeah.
I actually like that too. When he's driving in the car in sunlight and he starts burning, he's like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, he doesn't know the rules of what he is, but
actually,
which is weird because every time you turn on the TV in Pittsburgh, you're watching an old vampire movie.
Yeah, but as we talked about, they are fast and loose with the rules, so I understand the confusion.
Yeah, so he's like, what the fuck? So he goes in the meat locker. He's like, this is good.
Yeah.
And then he uses
a good
roast
meat locker.
for a pillow.
Which is
that's great.
That's the right kind of humor in this movie. I feel like.
I'll take it.
That's the kind of stuff where it's like that is.
And
not
you do
calling
get
attention
Raimi on the phone telling the mob like, no, he's here.
Yeah.
I guess he's all right, but he's literally using a pot roast for a pillow.
This does not top though my favorite Sam Raimi cameo, which is Miller's Crossing, when he just rolls in as that cop dual wielding revolvers, and you're like, he's like got a cigar in his mouth and he pulls them out of his shoulder, and you're like, Jesus Christ, Raimi just comes in, no lines, he's like, I'm a fucking badass. That I loved.
It doesn't hurt to be friends with the Coens.
The Coens, yeah, those guys have been friends for. I mean, going back to they helped each other on Evil Dead and Blood Simple, you know,
and Crime Zone,
Crime Wave.
Sorry,
a pretty forgettable movie, but Raimi did co-write Hudsucker Proxy, which is great.
People that don't like that movie are not my friends.
Roger Ebert,
not my friend.
Ebert. Not pervy enough. Barely
it's
a
not their
boob
best
in this
movie,
thing.
but good Lord, can I watch Hudsucker Proxy every day?
It's not, maybe it's not their best movie, but it is far from their worst movie. That is, I agree. That is one I revisit often because it's a delight. It's just so charming.
For kids.
For kids.
Anyway,
I have the drawing of the circle.
A drawing of a circle.
Yeah. I have been working on this. And Paul, one of my favorite Paul Newman performances, man. He's great in that. As kind of a bad guy, which is rare for him too.
Well, he's not necessarily. Well, no, he is a bad guy.
He is a bad guy because he's trying to set up Tim Roberts.
I know. Sure.
Yeah, sure.
I love him going sure.
Sure. Yeah, it's a great use of him.
I like him. I'm gonna give him the double the stitch. Jesus Christ, I can quote that movie.
That scene is one of my favorite scenes in the history of just that cut to is brilliant.
He's such a nice man. I'm gonna give him the double stitch.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. So while that is happening, Joe and Marie get a hotel room for the day because she needs to sleep during the day because she's a vampire.
And he's nervous. The thing that it makes sense. This is logical. Is that from the time they team up, he's nervous the whole time. This isn't about a budding romance. He's like, can I be trusted around you? Are you going to kill me?
But this is what I'm saying is this is too late in the movie to be doing this if you want them to fall in love in the next half hour, because
they go into the hotel room. He's like, I'll just sit here in the chair and watch. She's like, you're safe. I'm not going to hurt you.
This happens.
And he's like, I don't know.
This
about
happens
that.
an hour and 20 minutes into this movie. It needed to happen 40 minutes into this movie. That's the thing where I just go, it takes way too long to team them up, and then it's so short for them to fall in love. But once again, we have a thing on the show where I think I would be probably not cautious enough around a vampire woman. I would totally fall for one of these things because
again,
you know what?
I
also as we've talked about, maybe too on board to be a vampire. I think I'd be okay with it.
the killing. The killing
Yeah, but
is the main thing I think is
come
not
on,
so good.
if I have the cool French vampire girlfriend and we're killing mobsters, that's not bad.
All right, judge, jury, and executioner.
Hell yeah, man! Vampire vigilante for life.
Oh,
for
except for that's
afterlife.
been done a lot.
It has been done a ton. That is not something I would do.
And don't get me started on Nick Knight, which I know you have the entire.
That I do actually own the box set of. Yes,
set,
Forever
yeah,
Knight. He was
Forever Knight. Yeah,
he was. Well, he was Nick Knight.
He's Nick Knight, but the
show is called
name
Forever
of the show
Knight.
is Forever Knight.
Yeah. But they did make the TV movie that was Nick Knight with Rick Springfield.
Yeah, and then they made Nick Knack, which is about a small man who brings Tabasco.
Yeah. Tabasco. Do you think he tried to get Christopher Lee in this movie? I would have tried.
I would have tried too.
Yeah, because it does seem like it's interesting for all the references in clips of horror movies where you would expect more legends of horror to be in it. I mean, that you have your Linnea Quigley and Tom Savini, but those are more like modern B horror people.
Yeah, where are the classic folks?
Where's a Christopher Lee? Where's a Vincent Price in this thing,
Oh my God.
All right,
missed opportunity.
I believe you're dealing with some vampires. I was told by Mr. Landis not to say it, but I did.
That's why they cut him out. We keep telling you not to mention vampires.
I can't resist. It's so spooky. Love Vincent Price. All right. So Rickles wakes up in the hospital as a vampire. They want him to turn evidence, but he's going to explode into flames instead, basically. God damn, this is my favorite scene in the movie.
It is really awesome. They do a whole thing.
These are the moments where it's like, God damn, even in this, Landis will still find some fucking cool monster scene to put in.
I like the fact that in this world, even the people that are being turned into vampires aren't really sure what that's about. Mm-hmm. So here we have Rickles is apparently not exactly dead, or when they found him, he was in that weird half state.
Right.
So they don't have him in a morgue. He is in a hospital bed.
Well, I mean, Logie even says that to his wife. That goes, "Don't worry, he's not dead. He'll be back."
Right. And so he's in there, and they don't know any better. You've got the paramedics or whatever, the nurses running in. Then they open the blinds, and he just goes up. And he goes up with some pretty kick-ass makeup. But this was all Savini. Well done, man.
I also love when the person's grabbing his arm and the arm just comes off and it's still burning.
Yeah, that's Linnea Quigley. Yeah. She pulls the arm off and she just gives a very good clean scream.
She's great at that, man. I mean, once again, talking about another woman, much like when we talked about Sybil Danning, where it's like seeing her nude at anything was like,
Yep. Well, it's just expected. And here she doesn't. Yeah, she's not required to. Here, she's just a nurse.
Yeah, because I don't think she couldn't get more naked than she was in Return of the Living Dead. So,
which is a scene again that will live on in history. Her gravestone striptease thing. Holy mackerel!
Oh, I do have that on pre-order as a 4K from Shout.
And it's just that scene.
It's
the rest
just
of the movie's
that
not
scene.
even there.
I said, don't even bother sending me the rest of it. No, I love that movie though. That movie's great. It's insane. If we ever get to Campbell and Jones Meet the Zombies, we'll do that.
Return of the Living Dead was the one that I used as Revenge or Return? Return. Yes. That was the one that I did for my tryout for being a horror movie host. That was the one they gave me to riff on.
With the legendary Tarman, of course.
Yep.
Brain. That's the only movie where people talk about people doing impressions of zombies saying brains. It's that movie.
That movie.
That was the first thing to have zombies going brains.
Yep.
So, good movie. And balances its tone much better than this. So back to this
Word.
LaPaglia and Marie have sex. We don't need to talk about that too much.
Well, the weird thing about this is, again, I think it's not a bad beat to have if you're having sex with a vampire, you play up the nervousness, because this is not just a human.
Better, yes, I agree.
This is a killer. So there's the whole thing of like she offers to be handcuffed, and again, this is a kinky. But the whole thing is like,
where she goes, I guess you're not too scared of me as she supposedly grabs his erect penis.
Yeah.
Good Lord, movie. Good Lord.
So he does handcuff her, and then as they start getting all frisky, at one point she snaps the handcuffs
I do
because
like,
she's a vampire.
I like that beat of that.
Sure. Yeah, it's like, you're safe, and now I'm going to do this.
Yeah, because, damn. And she also gets some line where she goes, right now I'm not hungry for blood. And you're like, oh my God.
And then I did think it was really good to have Joe LaPaglia's character go, what are you hungry for? Because sometimes really need to...
I'm not putting this together. Is this some kind of innuendo or come on?
Sometimes it's good to have characters really underline stuff. Then what are you hungry for?
Yeah. Just as fun.
Oh, sex. Oh, with a... Yes. Oh, with a penis. Gotcha.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Fine.
So we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Great.
I suppose I'm okay with that.
I will allow it.
I do appreciate, once again, in the nudity department, you do see quite a bit of LaPaglia too. It's somewhat balanced here. We're not talking about any kind of penis shot, but we see a lot of ass and stuff in here. I mean,
there's thrusting buttocks.
Yeah,
which was the name of my first band.
That's I definitely fall into that camp with the nudity where it's I think it needs to be even, because it often is, like, except if you're Stephen Toast on Toast of London and you've asked to keep your sport vest on. It's fine that I keep the sport vest on, which is one of my favorite runners throughout the show. Yeah, so yeah, and then we get, oh God, her eyes changing colors. And
yes, as she orgasms, her eyes go through multiple colors.
Yeah, what else does a vampire do? What else does a vampire do, of course? This kind of, it's not as cool as the glowing Cylon spine having sex on Battlestar, but
oh right, yeah,
that was good stuff. Because you're like,
I would buy that for $1.
Oh man, mixing up sci-fi franchises there.
I don't even care.
Yeah, I did just do a RoboCop trilogy rewatch, so that was fun.
Was it fun and then sad?
No. Oh, I don't want to derail this too much, but I am a RoboCop 3 defender. So,
I certainly like the casting. If you can't get the original guy, that's good casting. But still, moving on.
I like it. All right. So he burned up. They're having handcuff sex. Loja's assembled his goons now. This is where he starts biting the henchman. And then, they do a whole thing about you're gonna be a made man.
Yeah, I mean, that's a clever twist on mob stuff. It's like, in the olden days, being a made man is this, but here, you're really family because I am drinking your blood and you're going to be a vampire.
Again, I could not be more on board with the idea of vampire gangsters. Two of my favorite genres coming together. Let's do it. But it's, once again, this is kind of late in the movie, too. It sort of feels like... It does feel, because we're crossing into that like hour 20 mark, and I go, shouldn't this thing be about over?
Yeah.
That's kind of, I do agree. There's sort of I had an impatience with the movie where I'm like, I don't know what the problem with the pacing is here, but everything just feels a little slower than it needs to be. It's not that anything in the movie is particularly bad or the scenes. You're just going like, eh. And I think a lot of it is just, there isn't the connection of the characters. There isn't any depth to these people. There isn't any real spark between anybody.
A lot of it is in the script. Some of it's in the direction, I think. But also, the reason something like American Werewolf in London works so well is that you've got true horror. You have weirdly dark humor, and that's great. But the main thing that works is, David. You care about him. Well, there's the built-in tragedy. His romance progresses very nicely, and we know that's also a very fast romance.
It is a fast romance, but it really, really works. And also the dialogue. And it's interesting, Landis is not a credited writer on this, and he is on American Werewolf in London. I'm sure he must have done some kind of pass.
I still think a lot of this humor is him, but if it's so, it's just not good.
Yeah, it's an execution. It just, I don't know. Anyway, Marie does keep one of the handcuffs as a bracelet, which is an interesting touch.
It's cute. I liked that
cute.
little beat where she's like, you know what?
Yeah.
I like this.
Yeah. So they go to the strip club now, and that's where they're gonna run the vampire gang out of. And so they make Kim Coates and the other guy there. They're now vampires.
Yep.
This is where we get the scene we mentioned earlier, which we can just sort of skip over, of Joe and Marie going, "Is he here? No. Is he there? No."
Jesus Christ. Yeah, we gotta find Sally. Is he here? No. Is he over here? No.
But Luis Guzman and his partner do arrive at the strip club, and they bust in on a vampire scene, which requires one of the things you just, in your life, do you expect Robert Loggia to descend from the ceiling in a movie?
I have never thought I would see that.
So I kind of laughed at just the idea of like middle-aged Robert Loggia being like, yeah, I'm behind you.
Hey, John, this is really eating up on the sides of my crotch. This is uncomfortable.
My sciatica.
Let's get this scene over with.
Yeah, my sciatica. Come on, man.
Yeah. You're killing me here.
Jesus Christ. This is what I
One of the best voices, I swear to God.
Absolutely, because he did have that natural kind of
gravel. It's the gravel.
So yeah, they Joe and Marie enter, and they find one of the detectives has been turned, but Luis Guzman is tied to a chair.
Yes, and he has an awkward, loud, girlish scream, which again I think they're trying to be funny.
Yeah. Hey, Luis Guzman is a professional, though. He's here to do the work that he's asked to, you know?
But the guy who got the glass in the face in the very beginning, Luis Guzman's partner, he's the one that gets turned.
Why?
La Paglia sees him and is like, oh my God, I know him, but he's a vampire. Now I have to kill him. Shoot. He kills him.
Shoots him in the head, yeah. Meanwhile, Marie chases Loggia up to the roof of this building. I do like, one of the stunts I did like is this one vampire henchman getting shot off the roof. That was pretty good. And he goes down through the canopy of the awning. Not bad.
Yep.
That was good.
No,
that's a good stunt.
They're little bits. I mean, Landis is Landis.
Yeah, I mean,
Though I will say, like I said, I was surprised that every time there's a car chase in this, which is such a Landis thing, every one of them doesn't work. They're all not good, or they don't add anything.
You know why? Because the car chases don't really have anything to do in this movie. This really isn't a car chase movie.
No, and then there's that whole thing earlier.
Vampires driving cars is not cool. Like,
well, this isn't the early part where they're in the limo and Loggia's not a vampire yet, but he's got Marie with him, and he's like, "We're being followed by cops, by FBI, by my own guys," and he's like lose them to Preval, and then he's like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And so the big limo makes this hard turn that somehow avoid, and then all the cars following do that. We're all colliding into each other and that's a typical Landis thing. That's Blues Brothers. I'm sitting there going, this is limp. This didn't work at all.
I don't mind this next one, which is when Loggia jumps off the roof and the taxi cab swerves and crushes him into the bus.
Oh, sure, yeah.
That's not a car chase. That's just a nice stunt beat once again, because that is a nice, like, ooh, he got squished.
And we're finally getting to the end here.
We're finally getting to the end because, yes, of course, he survives.
All the men have been wiped out, but Loggia's still feeling really cocky because he is Count Loggia.
It's me, Count Loggia. How you doing?
And he's like saying stuff to, obviously, he's saying stuff to...
If he was still alive, they would have him on What We Do in the Shadows as Count Loggia.
Oh, it'd be so good.
They totally would. Hey, how you doing there, Laszlo?
But here we have him doing the stuff like, I don't know what you did to me, but I'm awesome. Thanks, lady. And he looks at probably like, you punk.
I do actually like
everything up for me, and I'm going to kill you.
Of him murdering this bus driver going, where'd you learn to drive? That's good. That's good supervillain kind of moment. But yes, this is where, when facing down, he's standing there going, you can't stop me. And of course, both LaPaglia notices both the bus and the taxi cab are leaking fuel, and he busts out his Zippo lighter and lights Loggia up.
What's weird is Loggia sees this coming. I mean, it's not like he's being subtle about it. He's like, what are you going to do? You can't stop me.
Yeah.
And then LaPaglia does the lighter like right in front of him, like, yep, I'm about to do this. And Loggia's like, come on. and he throws the fire in
That's
it, and
right.
then sets Loja on fire, and then Loja starts walking out of the fire, on fire, but still talking.
That's cool. That is cool. I like that.
It's pretty cool.
But what's disappointing is then LaPaglia just shoots him and he's dead.
I know.
And you're like, oh.
He's like, yeah, but he did already do the big supervillain thing of like, you think you could stop me? I am Manicelli or whatever the fuck my name is.
Yeah.
I am the light. And then LaPaglia just shoots him.
Yeah. Boring though. Boring.
And then the sun is coming up because this took all night.
Yeah.
And now Marie is like, oh, I'm going to go see the sunrise. I'm going to walk over here and die. And he's like, no, wait, don't. I love you.
Because I love you. And she goes, but I'm a killer. He goes, well, something had to be wrong with you because you're still single.
Yep. Yep.
And then this music kicks on. It's like, ba-da-bow, ba-da-dow.
I will say, in addition to the fixes I said earlier about the first 30 or so minutes of it, taking out the monologue, taking out her inner thought thing, get rid of it. Get rid of the Panther noises. Also, wipe the entire score out of this movie. I did read in the trivia. I know why the score is so bad because it was like a last-minute replacement. But this score is horrible.
Like and then this music.
They had Elmer Bernstein. It was like
who had
his
done
last
other Landis
film
stuff.
score.
Yeah. Who had done
or
other
the
Landis.
last one he did with Landis, yes.
Yeah, Landis did stuff, and then oh god, this music is terrible.
It's just bad.
And then we get these sitcom kind of titles at the end where it's like Anthony LaPaglia and Robert Loggia.
Yeah, they literally do here's the actor, now freeze frame, now their name. And I'm like, what? Now again, they did that in Blues Brothers. That is how you do that.
Fits
and that's the kind of movie you do that with.
That or Predator. I do love it in Predator. It makes no sense.
Jesse, the body. Ventura.
And everybody in those literally is looking at the camera going,
yeah, did you like seeing me get killed?
Like, yeah, like it's just like Carl Weathers catching a machine gun and smiling.
John,
yeah,
I didn't like this film.
I don't really like this film.
I know, relatively speaking, it is so much better than the stuff.
I mean, I think it's a more interesting movie than last week's movie. It's far better put together than a lot of the stuff. No, objectively, it does not work, and I had remembered thinking that when I saw it before.
Now, do we recommend?
No, I don't think I can really recommend this unless you're really like a Landis completist. It's really
That's it.
Yeah, it's just there's not enough here. It's too bad because it is a waste of a great concept and a talented filmmaker and cast.
It just means someone needs to finally write the Goodfellas being knocked off by vampires movie, and
I think I might be the guy to do that.
Oh, I might have to fight you on that.
Oh, no.
But actually, I've already done my Dracula versus the Mob movie, so...
There you go. Actually,
I haven't read that in years.
What I seriously am now wanting to work on is Vegas run by vampires, because I love this idea.
There you go.
But, like,
You'll have to ask Carrie Shearer for permission.
But take it back. I don't know what their take was, but literally take it back to, like, the beginnings of Vegas, where it's the mob and their gangsters and their vampires. Anyway, we keep watching vampire movies, Brendan. We got a few more vampire. I think our next we got 2 more vampire movies, then a mummy movie, then 2 more vampire movies. So, but next week we meet somebody who is fighting said vampires and a teenage girl named Buffy, the Vampire Slayer.
Oh my god! I knew it was coming. I haven't watched this in years.
I haven't watched it in years, especially because I was such a fan of the TV show. And when I would go back to the movie, it felt weird. It's kind of like Stargate
it feels
or MASH.
A little weird. Yes,
those sort of things where you go like, oh, I mean, look, the Robert Altman movie MASH is great, but you're just like, oh, this is weird. It's weird to watch.
Yes, but I will say reverse for me because you are probably a much bigger fan of Stargate, the TV series. Oh, yes. I never liked it.
Oh, I love Stargate.
So for me, watching the TV series is like, I'd rather watch that movie again.
Oh, that's so interesting, because whenever I watch the movie, I'm like, I love Kurt Russell, but I'm sorry, why isn't Richard Dean Anderson here? And Michael Shanks instead of James Spader. But will be interesting. I have not revisited this in a long time. Are you generally a fan of this movie?
Because I mean, I am. I remember, of course, that the central concept still is strong.
It is. It's a
and
great,
the
great...
weird comedy, because the show integrated the comedy a lot better. So talk about another movie where you're like, what's the tone here?
Also,
but you
Christy Swanson, I'll take Sarah Michelle Gellar, though.
I will absolutely any day of the week.
Get ready next week, because I get to talk about something somebody I do love quite a bit, and that is Mr. Luke Perry. I am so excited to talk about Luke Perry. I am a 90210 fan. At least the early days.
Back in the day.
And I always thought in particular, is like, okay, this show is not great, but that guy is a star. I really love Luke Perry, so I will get to talk about...
I thought you were going to say Rutger Hauer. I thought you were going to say Donald Sutherland. I thought you were going to say Paul Rubens.
All of those guys, like, obviously. I mean, it's sort of like, I think I've talked about my great love of Rutger Hauer before, I'm sure. Actually, have we talked about Rutger on here? I don't think we have.
Yeah, we have.
It feels like
because we occasionally bring up the movie we haven't done yet, which is Him as Van Helsing.
Which I, regardless of that movie, Him as Van Helsing, great. And I have talked about him extensively over on the Action Shelf once again. So,
yes.
Because I do love that. I just love that man. And maybe I can bring up my love of the movie Nighthawks. But
Nighthawks!
Nighthawks is one of my favorite Stallone movies. Yeah. So next week it is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Which I try to say in the most like flat way, so it seems like it's a different thing than the show. It is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I can talk about the time I went to a stage version of it.
Was that here in town?
That was here in town. A friend of mine,
and it was at the Funhouse Lounge.
It was at the Funhouse Lounge, and a friend of mine was in the Buffy the Vampire Slayer play.
Oh, I saw it.
Okay,
who was in it?
My friend Colton. Shout out to Colton Hartel, who is an actor here in town. He played the douchey popular guy who was like banging the cheerleaders and stuff.
Yeah.
He's a big, tall, muscly dude, Colton. He's like got like actual... He actually was one of those guys. He wouldn't mind me telling this. When he lived in LA, he actually was one of those guys who stood out in front of Abercrombie and Fitch with no shirt on. He had one of those because he's got like a 6-pack and... he's always...
Well, I used to stand out in front of Abercrombie and Fitch without my shirt on, but then the security guards would ask me to leave. I was not employed by them.
I kept my shirt on, but just walked in the store, and they said, "Nope, too fat to shop here, pal."
Yeah. Oh man, that is the place where they would actually say that.
Yeah,
we don't have anything here in your size.
I think you want to try elsewhere, somewhere where they sell sacks and muumuus. By the way, watch that Netflix documentary about Abercrombie and Fitch.
Sacks and muumuus?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good documentary. So that'll be next week on the show, but that's going to do it for this week's episode of Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters. I'm John Campbell.
I'm Brendan Jones.
And until next week, remember, there are such things as monsters.
And I go out of my mind or into the night.